payable on its investment properties to 4 billion shillings, raising the figure 6 times from the previous 669.9 million shillings. The company says in its latest annual report that it used an assessed tax payable on revelation gains in its real estate portfolio based on the capital gain tax rate of 5%. And in sports, European champions Italy become the first national team to go 37 games without defeat as they thrashed Lithuania in the World Cup qualifier. There were suggestions the Azzurri had broken the record during last Sunday's goalless draw with Switzerland. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. SpiceFM, Nyeri.
It's 6 minutes after 6 on the 9th day of the 9th month. Okay, so what's happening on the roads this early morning? Everything is as it should be. Mombasa Road is already busy coming towards town. This is the area around Mulongo coming towards town is already busy. And then Thika Road is still looking very, very good up to Pangani dip. That is not looking so good so far. But Westlands is already starting to pick up because people are out and coming towards town. We shall be looking at traffic in about half an hour to see how it's looking. Until then, let's all be courteous on the roads. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Happy Thursday. How are you
way
doing?
to
The
start
first
your
Friday
day
of the week. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the 9th day of September 2021. We are in the building. Eric Latif, and guess who? C.T. Muga. Guess who's not yet here? Nduoko. C.T., good morning.
Hey, good morning, Eric.
So, what did you do to Ndu? You are on leave.
Yes.
You're here, she's not.
Well, what I think happened is, since I mentioned that I was coming back to work today, she figured, well,
why then?
Well, I will eventually get there.
Yeah.
But actually, in all honesty, it's the vagaries of this road. Eh?
Yes.
And you wake up, you go to sleep thinking there's one thing, you wake up in the morning, and suddenly the road is not quite what it was.
It's just things are happening.
You know,
you find things happening on the road.
We're going to have this conversation again because some of the things that we were told by our guests who came here, the person in charge of this road and the chairman, it is only a portion of the story of the road. I would like us to discuss what was in the plan when this road was being built and what percentage of the things that are in the plan which should be there and which have been costed
are actually being
done. Yes, not what they're doing, what they're going to do tomorrow.
Yes,
this was the plan. This is what should have been on the road. This is what the residents who live along those that path we should expect,
Yep.
and this is what we have, so that we can discuss the shortfalls and explain why it is those shortfalls exist. Because if they are budgeted for, they are part of the cost. So you're
Yes.
being told this road is this cost. Then,
Why would it be 60 billion shillings and you're suffering?
yes. So what you're saying is 60 billion shillings of suffering. So, and you know it's going to be paid for.
Yes.
Even if it's a PPP, it's not free.
We're paying for it.
Yes,
As you use it, you pay. As you use it, you pay.
Yes.
And the cost and the how much you're paying is pegged on how much they need to recover.
But I reconsider also, we're also still paying for it now. You will find, in due course, as I have found, that traversing this terrible road on a daily basis increases the wear and tear on your vehicle.
Oh, tremendously.
What it's costing to service this car is more than it has done in the longest time.
Yep.
And it's the same road. And why? Because of the higgledy-piggledy nature of this road here.
Just some nonsense. Can you imagine now people who are applying that route, people who operate matatus?
My friend,
So there's a cost of staying in traffic, there's a fuel, then there's a cost of the rough nature of the road, the wear and tear and servicing, and all because you're being told it's for a brighter future.
then there's the element of the dust, which brings in a big health hoo-ha.
Yes.
And that, my friend, is not something you can just sneeze at or just ignore and wish away. It's a reality, because if it causes an illness, that illness is going to stay with the person who has contracted that illness for the longest time. All in the name of what? Development?
Yeah.
No.
It'll be with you.
Yep, it will.
Yeah, it's yours. It's going to be benefiting you.
Then there's my favorite part. The road will be completed in January. It won't.
They move from January to February to July.
They can
June.
move it to August if they wish. The road will still not be completed. This one. Wait and see.
You don't see it?
I honestly do not see it.
In 4 months' time, they can complete the structural construction.
In 4 months' time, they can, but will they? You see, if you traverse the full length of this road, there are sections where they haven't even begun erecting anything. And we have seen how long, this is how layman's thinking. I've seen how long it has taken, this bit that has been erected, I've seen how long it has taken. So unless you're telling me that this was a learning phase, that'll be quicker, it doesn't work that way. Not with the materials that they're using. The curing process, everything has a certain time lag. We're told the structural foundations take time. We got that. They said they're in place. We got that. Have you seen the pace moving? No. It doesn't move with all that supposedly in place. This thing isn't moving. What is moving is the earth on which we travel every day. The crevices, the potholes just get bigger and bigger.
Things are just changing.
Yes, those ones
As you
change.
watch.
But before my very eyes. That's what happens when you're on the road every single day. And you know the beauty? You're on the road when there isn't much traffic. So you can actually see the road clearly. With traffic, you might drive slowly, so you might not feel the impact of the road. But this one, you can see the road. And you can see other road users who are not familiar hitting a pothole, being airborne, landing.
You know, the other day, I haven't used the section between Nyayo Stadium and Nyayo House for a very long time.
And you did.
I did earlier this week.
Yes.
At some point, I was wondering where I was. And this is at Parliament, because we got stuck at Parliament for about 40 minutes. The section between Parliament, that's Haile Selassie, and Kenyatta Avenue roundabout.
And why did you get stuck?
Those two.
Traffic.
I don't know.
But you weren't moving.
And we were somewhere, I think we were inside Uhuru Park at some point. I just don't know where we were. We were just stuck there, 4 lanes. Not 4 lanes because people are overlapping, but just 4 lanes because that's how it's been done. And then we were just not moving. I just didn't understand what was happening. I got to the Nyayo House roundabout. I didn't know where I was, and I needed to continue going further.
The Nyayo House roundabout is a bit confusing. It's even more confusing if you move up ahead.
Aye.
Because you suddenly find you are actually driving into Nairobi University compound,
Mm-hmm.
and then you are inside, then you come out. It's honestly really very confusing. It is. Now you tell me that section and tell me what has been put on that road as we speak now. Something that resembles the eventuality of that expressway, and tell me if it's in the state it's in now. it is not one of those cases where I am simply I'm being a wet blanket. I'm not. I'm looking at the progress. I'm looking at what I am seeing, and I'm going by what I have seen so far and the promises made. January, it won't be complete. February, it will not be complete.
June,
it will not be complete.
June.
I want to be generous and say July. This expressway will not be complete in July.
Sister Du.
Yeah.
Habari yako?
Nzuri sana.
So from your experience on that road this morning, will it be complete by July next year?
Nada. No. Sorry. Not happening. I'm with CT. CT! How are you?
Super.
You're like Michael Jordan.
I am.
Yeah?
Who did what?
He stopped playing for the Bulls, and then he had to come out of retirement, to show that, he's the greatest.
Yes.
So I've come out of retirement. Eric, have you guessed what I've been told?
You had stopped playing for the Bulls.
Okay.
And now you come out of retirement.
I've heard all that. But the key word here is retirement. I know when I'm being spoken to.
No.
There's a message being sent.
This one is not, this one, my friend, it's not even cryptic, it's direct.
Don't worry. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, everybody. We'll have a conversation today with the Chief Justice, Martha Koome. She'll be joining us at 8 o'clock. We've been asking you, so what would you like to hear from her? So we have 1 hour. We'll have very many questions to ask her, and we'll see how many we can actually cramp into that 1 hour. We have a lot to understand what she has learned in her experience as Chief Justice for the last 3.5 months or so, what her plan is in the remainder of her tenure as Chief Justice of the Republic, the relationship between the judiciary, the executive, judiciary, legislature, the relationship within the judiciary amongst judicial officers and members of the bar and the bench, and the plans that she has for the ordinary Kenyan, the you and I, to get swift and speedy justice in our courts. First, let's just do a quick one on COVID-19 before we take the break. So yesterday, according to the Ministry of Health, 649 new cases were reported from a sample size of 7,704. That's a positivity rate of 8.4%. It's dropping. Already so far, we have seen the cases as they continue to rise. And in terms of vaccinations, we've hit the 5.146 million number of people who've received the vaccine so far. The vaccines that have been received in the country, rather. Those that have been vaccinated so far, 2.9 have received complete vaccination. People who have received the first dose are 2.1%, and those who have received the second dose are 817,000 people. Proportion of adults fully vaccinated in the country, 3. Second dose, 38.6% of those that received their first dose have received their second dose. And this is ongoing. Then there'll be a conversation that we'll have later about some people who have found themselves thinking that they are getting the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, paying some money, and then they're told, Johnson what? J-O-J is different from H2O. 18 minutes after 6, Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take this break. We're live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. CT has the day's proverb. He'll give us shortly after this break. It's a sad end to the Maasai Proverbs of the week. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu wacha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
There's so many people peddling what is false, and that it
bears remarkable resemblance to what is true.
Politicians have their agenda, and their agenda is to use every opportunity to sell that agenda and to loot this nation.
I have seen major strides that are done in this country when we talk to each other as against talking at each other.
We start getting back into the tribal cocoons which were put to us by the colonial powers. You know, they gave us physical freedom but not mental freedom. We're still mentally colonized today into these cocoons of tribe.
Now, if you live in an area where it's difficult to find a dog,
He's a goat. I kid you not.
In which part of this country is it difficult to find a dog? So that you resort. Nafandi umbo yako iko na
nini umba special.
The weather with
Clear
SpiceFM.
conditions in Nairobi when the sun does come up at 13. Highs of 23 today. In Nakuru, partly cloudy conditions at 14. Highs of 23. 20 will be the high in Nyeri. It's raining this morning at 15. Into Kisumu, it's 18 degrees and wet morning. Highs of 27 and lows of 18. And in Kakamega, it's raining as well at 18. It'll go to highs of 23 and lows of 15 today. Mombasa, raining at 23. Highs of 29 and lows of 23. While in Malindi, also raining at 25. It'll go to highs of 29. Out into Kampala, 18 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions, highs of 26. Dar es Salaam is mostly clear at 22. 21 will be the low for today, going to highs of 30. It's partly cloudy in Lagos at 25. All indications of a rainy morning, highs of 30. Back down to lows of 25. Kinshasa is clear this morning at 25, highs of 33, down to lows of 25 today. Let's look out east into Beijing, where it's sunny at 26. Well, into early afternoon, highs of 27 and lows of 18. In Paris, it's 21 and mostly cloudy, highs of 26 and lows of 18. Clear conditions at 18 in London, highs of 23. And still, Wednesday night in New York is cloudy at 24. Coming into Thursday, we'll see highs of 27 and lows of 21.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Good morning, everybody. I'm just going to start that way because there are remember how Jesus fed the multitudes. There are multitudes of people online today.
Okay.
I'm just saying good morning once, but then we can see you guys. Elvis Limuti tuned in from Eldoret, King's Depot. Good morning. County 048 is where Victor is tuned in from. Fully locked from Alego Siaya. Kakamega County, Jamal is representing. Isaiah Ombora tuned in from Mombasa this morning. Michael George says, waking up to light showers here in Kisumu Airport region. David Wasubukia tuned in as well. Sky Karish says, good morning, team. Good morning to you too. Leslyn Granddaughter tuned in from Jamaica. Mpatanishi Guest House, that's where Kaka Jemo is tuned in from. Brian Armand says, good morning, Spice. Phil F.A. Collins tuned in from Embakasi. And he says, thoughts without content are empty. Institutions without concepts are blind. Tafkari Hayo. Ben Apudo tuned in from Kibra this morning. And he's asking a question. Do we still have people who believe tenets and values of good governance, of democracy, transparency, and accountability? Question. Evelyn Kavaya tuned in this morning from Riyadh. Waterman Jeffrey tuned in from Minneapolis. Around the world, guys. Good to have you on board today. Can't get to all of you, but we see you and good morning.
Karibu sana, everybody, and we are glad that you are tuned in. City, a Mount Kenya proverb?
No.
This man and promises.
This man has been having a field day in your absence.
This man and promises. Remember him saying, I have.
Right.
I will be giving you Mount Kenya proverbs.
I did say
and
that.
Then he went.
And then he went on leave. Huh?
Yeah, in 3 months' time. The Mount Kenya
in
proverb
3 months' time
will be complete.
All right. Chagula mtangazaji.
Sorry, what now?
The choice of the mtangazaji. Mtangazaji means presenter. Sometimes it's the choice of presenter, sometimes the choice of the
audience.
listener and audience. The audience here being one Mr. Eric Latif.
Voila.
So I will forgo what I had prepared, and I will, in fact, focus on the Coup proverb.
What kind of preferential treatment is this? I don't understand.
Yes.
Me too, I'll make a request.
Right. A child who likes visiting other homes comes home to find that the family has slaughtered the meat, and the meat has been eaten by other members of the family.
Tanga.
A child who likes visiting other homes comes back home to find that the family has slaughtered the meat, and it has been eaten by other members of that family.
Bus.
A Coup proverb.
Okay. It's a true one. It's a nice one. Thank you, CT. Thank you.
You've made the man's morning.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let's take a look at the headlines in the papers, shall we? Yes. What is it that is interesting? So the Standard has been doing a series on CBC. And today, on page 10 and page 11, they're talking about the classroom. So this whole transition from the from primary to junior secondary to senior. The government has no plans to build new classrooms for junior secondary learners. New classrooms may not be constructed in most public schools ahead of the major transition of CBC pioneers to junior secondary. As the clock ticks towards the anticipated transition of grade 6 learners in 2023, parents and education stakeholders have questioned the levels of preparedness of secondary schools to receive the students. A competency-based curriculum task force report projects that the government needs to create 1.5 million classes to cater for anticipated. The team led by Professor Fatuma Shege, who is now the PS in charge of implementation of the curriculum, said 2023 will experience double intake and will require huge infrastructure. They'll transition to junior secondary after sitting a national exam at grade 6. It's also the year that the present Standard 7 learners under the 844 system will join Form 1 after sitting the KCPE exam. The number of grade 6 and Standard 8 learners expected to join secondary school in 2023 will be 2.57 million. The available secondary school spaces at present are 1.08 million. So there's a shortage of 1.4 million places in secondary school to accommodate these new students. Sijui kama tumeelewana, my friend. Tuko pamoja?
Yep. Are we together? We are together.
Good.
On the facts.
No, mimi siko pamoja.
Hata mimi kuna vile sielewi, lakini wacha tusikie yako.
If I understand this new system well, if I understand the requirements that COVID has placed upon us, in this discussion of these changes, the one thing that I thought would have happened, just one, that we'd be having a discussion about the spaces being increased.
Right.
That's the discussion I would have hoped. If it's being spoken of, I'm not hearing it clearly.
It's not. And this is the problem. This is the exact issue with this. Okay, so there are very many layers to the problems here. The curriculum on its own is not a bad curriculum. I mean, it's that aside, it's not the issue. But the things that come along with it that you must do as a result of establishing and implementing this curriculum is what is not happening and is what would then pose a problem. Put these other things aside that parents are talking about, the cost then of having to do more work because now you're dealing with a wider life approach to learning. Put that aside. The infrastructure that it's going to require, because now you're essentially changing the years in which students will be in primary and that which they will be in secondary. You cannot do that without the adequate infrastructure. This thing of saying, well, let's just absorb, is not possible. Just like the same way when we heard, let's have 100% transition. It's wonderful. But are we providing the necessary infrastructure to make that possible? And unfortunately, the answer is no. It's not happening. Here, when you talk about 1.4, because there's no space, there will be a problem because you will have a double intake. Those who are supposed to be going to Form 1 and now those who are going into junior secondary essentially are coming in at the same time to the same class.
There's something that I keep raising here, and this is, if we stop looking at secondary in terms of the institutions that we know to be secondary school institutions and look at secondary as education. So there's a transition of great people who are currently in 5, they are going to 6. They will need now to go to junior secondary. Yes. Instead of going to standard 7, they'll be going to grade.
Meaning standard 7 will be called junior secondary.
Yes. It'll be junior secondary. Okay? Now, those who are currently in 7 will be in 8, and then they'll be looking to join Form 1 and continue with their 844 as they are the last ones to do the 844. Senior. Now, these new ones, must they report to that institution that is currently called secondary?
No.
In this first year?
If you're thinking the way you're thinking, they don't have to. Education doesn't have to take place in a new compound. Because after all, you have the curriculum.
Yes.
It is easier to move those teachers who need to teach them if there is a need to this. Yes. So that one, there's continuity, as opposed to then thinking of them physically moving yet to a different location. Because the space for what we call Collins and 7 exists. It has not gone away.
It has not gone away.
Yes.
There'll be 2 classrooms there. There's the standard 7 and the standard 8, which are still in those primary schools and they've been constructed. Well, we can talk about now the other amenities that are required for the junior secondary curriculum, whether you have the labs and all. But in terms of space, the reality is, are we able to even go to secondary schools and increase a classroom? And then what happens to that classroom when this double intake is only happening once? After that, there's no double intake. The next cohort that joins the junior secondary will be the only ones that will be joining junior secondary.
When you consider schools that have worked, and these are private schools on the premise of, say, adhering to COVID rules and norms, you will find that they have 2 distinct sessions of learning. Online learning and classroom learning. So 1 week you're in class, the other week you're at home. But if you look at the norms that are actually dictated by our own Ministry of Education, the requirements of classroom intake and the capacity, the classrooms that we have are not actually able to maintain those numbers.
Currently, they're not.
They're not.
Yes.
Because the classes are overcrowded.
Yeah.
So for purposes of learning, that overcrowding, you see, the numbers in a class are supposed to enable a good learning environment.
Yes.
The numbers we currently have do not do that.
They don't do that.
Because we're looking at 60 plus
yes.
in a class. That's the case. So, interestingly enough, the president of the Law Society of Kenya is going to file a case to try and stop the CBC next week. He's made that announcement yesterday. There's quite a lot of complaint, and he said, we have heard you. And based on that,
So what does he want to stop?
All right, so let me tell you exactly. Based from his statement yesterday, he said, I have heard your cries, parents, guardians and teachers. The petition challenging CBC will be filed in court next week. The education system in Kenya should not be an expensive, inefficient and ineffective experiment with our children and their future, as is our leadership.
It'll be interesting to see
how this will play out.
Yeah, what exactly they'll be challenging. Is it challenging the rollout? Is it challenging the change of curriculum, saying it didn't follow due process? Is it saying that this is expensive, and how will you demonstrate it's more expensive than the other?
Might be interesting to see that it will be a combination of all those things that you mentioned, but we have to wait and see.
Okay. Yeah, there's been hue and cry about this. The whole rollout of the CBC and what's happening in the country right now. Let's take a quick break at 27 minutes to 7. Take a look at what's happening on the roads now, and then we will look at more headlines. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Have you seen them? Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you.
Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
Quite some traffic coming out of Westlands this morning. We're also looking at Jogo Road, quite packed, getting towards Landis Road and then out towards the Kamkunji roundabout. Mombasa Road, my goodness, today it doesn't look good at all, guys. There's a lot of construction that has happened over the last 24 hours. So parts of the road are looking all right, but then there are little still bottlenecks that are not allowing the flow of traffic. So folks woke up very early this morning on the roads already. It's quite jam-packed. So we're going to get out of this one, but it's going to take a while. So just in case you've not left yet, you might want to give it a while, or if you're joining that, know that you're going to add some huge dollops of patience to your morning commute. All right, Wilson Airport, Langata Road is where we see a lot of traffic heading out towards the city. Coming off then of Lusaka, then joining with Bunyala. That area doesn't look too bad right now, but we know that it will pick up on Uhuru Highway through to Westlands and inbound the city. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, that's where you can reach us this morning. It doesn't look too bad on the Thika Super Highway. That Muthui joint is giving us a bit of an issue right now, but we'll see what happens in a short while. Text us as well on 40127. Let's keep things moving this morning.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
24 to 7.
94.4 Spice.
I am actually looking at an opinion column in The Nation by Charles Onyango Obo. And he is talking about coups on this continent. And there are some statistics here that are fairly daunting. He's saying from 2010, we're in 2021, 11 years, we've had 37 coup moves on the continent.
37?
Yes.
In 11 years?
Yes.
Or is it? Yeah, 11 years.
11 years, 37. And he says the movements usually, they even have a pattern. They tend to begin in North Africa, they get to West Africa, then they move down, and they come to Central Africa. He said...
And then they go back up.
Yes, then the Horn of Africa, and then they go back up again. But of significance, what he points out is he categorizes them and says, if you look at the coup makers of yesteryears, he said they fall into three broad categories. They were the lot that had, should we say, ideological upbringings. There are people who read Shakespeare, people who read the classics, and they were nation builders. And he points at two very distinct ones. He says Murtala Mohammed and Olusegun Obasanjo. So these were nation builders. You were military men. Said then there were those who are idealists like Thomas Sankara. Okay. Said then there's a category that seemed to have found their way somewhere around Central Africa. Now these ones, he said, were people who had joined the army or the military in an earlier time when people were conscripted, and usually they were from poor resourced areas, and the education was scant. Now, I said these are the sort of people who are intolerant to any opposition and fed their enemies to crocodiles. Okay. Then he talks about the difference being that many of the modern coup makers are actually educated. They've actually gone to school, but you don't see any ideology. There's no Marxism. There's no... What they have is a great deal of unhappiness that people have with the current leaders, and so they represent the disenchantment that the people have. Now, you may ask, why am I looking at this? Well, why I'm looking at this is when I look at the pictures of some of the people whose governments have been overthrown, there's a distinct feature that I see. They all look surprised.
As though they did not expect this to happen.
Yes, it's like, why is this thing happening to
me?
Or it's like, why are these people doing this to me, and they're people whom I thought I had under my control? Now, it's surprising, which tells you that many of the people who lead countries and whose countrymen, women, and children suffer are very far removed from that suffering. They have no clue.
True.
So, because they have no clue, they don't have a clear pulse as to what is actually going on. Now, this makes for problems. And why do I think it's important? I think it's important because in this modern day, where information is at your fingertips, literally, a leader cannot afford to be careless, neither can a leader afford to be asleep. You really must have the pulse of your citizenry at your fingertips. You must understand what's going on.
Interesting. Because as you say that, President Uhuru Kenyatta has declared the drought-ravaging parts of the country a national disaster.
Yeah, congratulations,
Okay.
Mr. President. Welcome
so it
to
appears
Kenya.
So he has a finger on the pulse in terms of what's happening in the country. The declaration comes a month after the National Drought Management Authority had estimated 2.1 million Kenyans face acute shortage, a food shortage, and would be in urgent need of assistance in the coming 6 months. This was a rise of more than 600,000 people from the 1.4 million Kenyans the government in April said faced hunger due to the drought and the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the figure was corroborated by the Kenya Red Cross Society, with its Secretary General Asha Mohammed saying 12 arid and semi-arid counties are the most affected. The situation, she said, is likely to become worse and affect up to 20 counties if authorities do not act quickly enough. President Kenyatta made the declaration after a meeting with the Treasury Cabinet Secretary Kuriatani and 85 leaders from arid and semi-arid lands. That's the ASAL. So he has instructed the National Treasury and the Ministry of Interior to spearhead government efforts in assisting the affected households and regions. Okay? The efforts, he said, include distribution of water and relief food, as well as buying livestock. Details of the government's comprehensive drought mitigation measures will be made public in due course, according to State House spokesperson Kanze Dena Mararo.
I saw that statement yesterday by Kanze Dena. So number one, the president needed to meet with the leaders of this region so that he can declare this a national disaster. They're the ones who had actually asked him, Mr. President, please declare a national disaster so that we can again get the support that we need. He meets with them. He says, okay, Mataka ikuwe nini? National disaster.
It's a national disaster.
Pewa national disaster. They get their national disaster. The next thing is the government is going now to start working on mitigation measures and release the details in coming days. That means that the government did not have details of what it was going to do with this drought.
Didn't have a plan.
By the time the president was asking the 85 leaders of ASALs to come and meet him, he had no clue.
No plan. No nothing.
He did not have a plan of, so guys, come. We understand that has been happening. We have been given information by various agencies and state agencies. The National Disaster Drought Management Agency, the Kenya Red Cross, intelligence has given us this information. We know we are on the ground. We have looked at it. I mean, the Food and Agriculture Organization, we know there were locusts. We know there was shortfall of rain. I mean, it's not an emergency, really, that had just happened. There's a drought.
There was build-up.
There was clear knowledge that there was going to be drought. But by the time the president is actually asking the leadership of ASALs to meet him, he's saying, I'll give you a plan of what I'm going to do. What's that? You'd have expected that the president meets them and says, all right, so this is the plan. Okuriatani is here. Eugene Omalo, the minister in charge of ASALs, is here. This is the plan. Disaster Management Authority, Drought Management Authority is here. This is the plan. This is how we're going to roll out this plan. We're calling it a disaster. The 5 billion has been allocated, and this is what it's going to do immediately. We need to mobilize more, and this is a plan for mobilization. We've already reached out to our partners here and there, and they are going to release a plan later. They didn't have a plan as people are dying. Hey. Hii Kenya imeenda kwa maumbwa. DCI used woman to plant cash in her chambers. Justice Chitembwe now claims.
He said a couple of things. Okay, sorry. Carry on.
So first of all, that 770,000 shillings that was found in his office, he says, I have a son who's studying in Australia, and he needed some money. So I had it in my office. Then I was now going to get some time to go and to go to the bank and then find out the modalities of transferring this money so that my son can access this cash, number one. But he also claims that the 6.2 from the chambers were lies and accused the DCI of using a strange woman to plant the money at his colleague Justice Agri Mucharule's chambers. He, however, admitted that the DCI found $7,000 US dollars, which he said was personal money he intended to send to his son who is studying in Australia. These are mere allegations, bereft of any viable basis. They are matters being fit to be described as hearsay. They have not even disclosed the alleged brokers or the court cases that they are seeking to influence by offering the bribes. So, 7,000 shillings, 7,000 USD found in his chambers. That's okay. I mean, that was my cash. This other money that you say was found in Chelule's chambers, that was planted cash.
So it's not mine.
It was planted cash. That's what he says. He says, according to Chitembwe, he had left his chambers on that day and went to Justice Mchelule's chambers so that they could go for tea at Milimani High Court's 4th floor. But his colleague informed him that he had already had tea and he decided to leave. I met 3 people outside Justice Mchelule's chambers who identified themselves as police officers and ordered me back to his office. While inside, they informed us that they were conducting a search, but when we asked for a search warrant, they said they didn't need it. He says after conducting a search at Mchelule's office, which yielded nothing, the officers sneaked in an unidentified lady who they took to the judge's toilet to search and returned saying they had recovered 5.5 million shillings. That's 50,000 US dollars. After the incident at Justice Mchelule's chambers, he stated that the detectives escorted him to his office where they conducted another search, but they didn't recover anything. After this search, I removed 7,000 USD from my pocket, which I was intending to pay for my son's school fees at the Edin Cowan University in Australia, and handed it over to the officers. There was no seizure of the amount from me since I voluntarily gave it to them. And in fact, they didn't even find it in my chambers. It was on my person, in my jacket pocket. I removed and gave it to them. I was going to deposit this money. His story is interesting, isn't it?
It's very interesting, and I would like to see how it would play out. Because then, how do you say that it was not the case? How do you prove otherwise?
You could. You actually can, but there are so many gaps in this story. You know, I'm certainly not sure what it is, what to make of it. That the police, the DCI may have been alerted to something. Yes, that happens.
All the time.
That there was somebody who may have wanted a case influence, that can also happen. However, up to that stage, mere speculation, people are just saying this could have happened, this could have happened. But what did happen? And how do we look at what happened and tie it into the reality that has been propagated by us, the media, that these judges might actually be guilty, that they might actually be on the take? Where is the evidence? And where is the evidence that the money that we are being told was found? Have we actually, there's a mention of it, but beyond the mention, do we know it was found?
Well, none of them is denying that money was found.
We hear Chitembwe actually
the
saying
DCA
that he
has
handed
gone
the
to
money
court
over.
and said
This
money was
amount we've
found.
retrieved.
Justice Chitembwe here is saying, yes,
I gave over.
There was money. The woman went into the toilet of the judge's chambers with the officers, came out, and there was money. They came to my chambers. I gave them money. That's his version. Police, we recovered money. Same amount.
The details of who recovered or who gave over now is what is sketchy.
Let me tell you why you see me shaking my head on this particular matter. Okay? And why it's not clear. See? Why is it that this woman that is being spoken of is suddenly mysterious? Okay? Why is it that there is money? Yes, but at the same time there is no money. There is money as in money was found. No, there is no money because the money was not there. The money was placed there.
But the thing is, CT, nobody's denying that there was money. Both parties, whether it's the DCI or Justice Chitembwe, are saying, yes, there was money. It just happens to be that Chitembwe is saying, there was money in my jacket pocket, I gave it over. Secondly, there was money that was found in the washroom where this lady went with DCI officers, right? That's his side. DCI is also saying, we retrieved money.
Let me explain to you why you hear me talking in a manner that may be considered circuitous or circumlocucious. If you look at the headline in The Nation, Chitembwe's 7 million. Headline. If you read what then happens on page 8, Are you talking about 700,000 shillings or are you talking about 7 million?
7,000 USD.
Yes, 770,000 Kenya shillings.
Yes.
So, why are we talking about 7 million here and why are we talking about 700,000?
This is an error by the editors or the sub-editors of The Nation where they call it 7M. Because even inside, they talk about 770,000 shillings.
So, we are saying that this is an error.
Yes, clear. It's 7,000 USD, which they convert, which is the nation that's converting to 770,000 shillings.
I don't think it's an error.
Okay.
That is now my take. You see, everything that we're discussing here is reported. But it is reported, the two of you say the amounts in question seem to be similar. Yes, sound similar. So what's the case? If I had the money, and I'm telling you, I'm the one who had it. So what's the case?
The case
I shouldn't have had the money. How did I arrive at the money? What was I doing with that money? Is that the case? Has it been pointed out as that being the case?
No, CT. You see, you're looking at of today's story, which is Chitembo's response, and you're ignoring the previous story, which was DCI's application.
No.
What has the DCI said? That's what you're asking. And you should not be asking us. You should go and read.
We're acting on a tape.
Mm-hmm.
And the tip was, these two judges
had been receiving money.
There were allegations that they were on the take. And they wanted to pounce on this evidence that would prove that these fellows were on the take.
Yes.
And I'm saying, everything that I've read so far does not point to a situation where anybody is on the take. All I'm hearing is there was money. And so long as somebody can explain as to why that money was there, where does the issue of the take come in?
You wait for the DCI's case.
So let's hear it when the case comes through, and then we'll be able to know.
No.
Have you heard the accuser's case? Remember, the judges went to block any arrest and any further prosecution.
These people, this is their playing field. And the people they're applying to are their colleagues. So, let's see how this unfolds.
Let's do that, shall we?
The DCI will present their case and
They
say,
will.
I mean, they have recorded their statements, the investigating officers who came there, and they said what they were doing and why they were there and what they found. And why they asked the judges to accompany them to the DCI offices. And what the statements read. And whether they have a case or not.
It'll be unfurled, I guess. So
Really?
remember-
It could actually just disappear.
Or just die. That too is a possibility, and a great one. Remember yesterday when Laikipia governor said, we don't understand why there has not been any arrests. Nobody has been apprehended. Well, it would appear that then, I told you, events happening between 10 o'clock and 6 o'clock. 2 politicians were arrested yesterday, hours after the government blamed the violence in Laikipia County on political incitement. Tiati MP William Kamket and former Laikipia North legislator Matthew Lempurkel were held in Nairobi and Baringa over the violence that has left 8 people dead and hundreds displaced. Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya had earlier said the 2 politicians were among 3 leaders linked to the skirmishes. Kamket was arrested in Cabernet, Baringo, in an operation led by Baringo County Police Commander Robinson Diwa. Lempurkel was picked at his home in Ongata-Rongai and driven to the city where he was interrogated for hours. I was at home when DCI officers arrived in 2 vehicles. They have not told me why they have arrested me, he said. Kamket was transferred to the Rift Valley Regional Criminal Investigations Headquarters in Nakuru. He was escorted by a lean team of friends and supporters. After being grilled for nearly an hour, Kamket emerged with handcuffs and was taken to the Nakuru Law Courts and later to the Nakuru Central Police Station. Detectives then moved the MP to the Kaptemwo Police Station. According to Ndiwa, most illegal herders causing mayhem in Laikipia are from Baringo County. They are employees of prominent people, including Kamket. The herders have been incited that they should not leave Laikipia, and as far as they are concerned, peace must prevail.
You know, these are just jokes.
Kabisa.
So, there were questions that the 2 leaders we spoke to yesterday, the county governor and the MP for Laikipia North, were saying some of the people who are being accused of perpetrating this attended a meeting in the Harambe House with senior government officers. It's reported that Lemprukil was among those that were in that meeting. And then yesterday, he's arrested. But if Natembeya says there are 3 politicians linked to this, who's the third one? Where are they? If the National Security Council says we have politicians, civil servants, and local leaders who have taken their cattle into this area illegally, where are all the others? Where are the local leaders and the senior civil servants? 3, when he was taken to court yesterday, the magistrate raised a number of issues. Magistrate refused, first of all, to have the man detained for long. And he says, look, you guys have brought Lemprukil here, and the accusation that the police are leveling against him is that he made some inflammatory remarks in a Maa radio station a couple of days ago. And that was on the 11th of July. So the magistrate is asking, so between the 11th of July and today, it's almost 2 months. If he incited the Maa community to rise against other communities, it's questionable why the state is bringing him to court, not to charge him, but is asking to remand him for 14 days. Like, this is something that happened 2 months ago. So if you arrested him today, then, and you had not arrested him yesterday or last week or last month, it means that you are conducting your investigations. So you should be coming to court ready to charge the man. If you're not ready to charge the man, then just let him go.
It would appear as though arrests were made because there were calls for arrests. So there was calls for something to be seen to be done.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's what it just looks like right now. Again, a classic case of window dressing. To make it look as though we are doing something, but you know very well what you ought to do, it's not happening. So that reluctance that we are clearly seeing from security forces to actually get something done is front and center now. So the reason why you're arresting him, everybody thinks, okay, in connection to the clashes, then you come and find out that it's over something that happened 60 days ago. He
said this in July, on the 11th of July, so we are linking him to this. In the meantime, in the last 14 days, okay, raiders in Laikipia have killed 7 people, including 3 police officers and a teenager. They have torched more than 40 houses in the surrounding ranches. And we have people who've been displaced. The Nation today has brought back a photo on the front page. Trouble in Laikipia. A mother and son fleeing insecurity, arriving at the Olmoran Center in Laikipia. Looking at the faces of this woman and her son, it is sad faces. Nobody else has been arrested apart from these 2 politicians. The actual raiders on the ground, no one has been arrested, no one has been shot. Shot wounded, shot fatally, nothing. But we are bringing politicians to and giving it another angle.
In 2013, when they had similar problems, remember what I find to be an interesting twist in this story is how these animals have now gone into conservancies. Now, there were people who owned conservancies in those areas, especially the place called the Nagum area. In 2013, the owners were actually evicted. They never returned. So what seems to, in my mind, to be at the fore is not a discussion about just bandits. These raiders, these ones, to me, sound like people who have been given a job to do.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
They're troops they're boots on the ground.
Yes. You go and cause this amount of problems.
We'll pay you such an amount. That's
yes.
it. Yeah.
Okay. That's number one. Secondly, there is a clear indication that they want people to move. They're driving people out. And the only way they're occupying the land that they're driving people out is with the cattle. You are driven out, the cattle comes in. Okay. But what bothers me is all these areas have security. And the cattle don't move in a day. It's been happening over time. So what have they been doing all this time? Because if you're security in that area, you know the people of that area. You know the landowners. You're even aware of who owns what cattle. The details of things that happen in that place are known. That's what security do. They know these things.
Yep.
So how has this happened over time? Are the security in areas such as this one that are prone to violence, are they sufficiently equipped to deal with the possibility of this menace? And then remember, there's been this discussion of the sort of ammunition that these raiders are purportedly seen with. It's being said that they are being seen with high caliber graded weapons that even our own security forces don't have. Those are back and forth. And Mr. Natembeya said, you know something, that is not true. Now, it's a back and forth. I don't know much about weapons. I know what a G3 looks like. I know what an AK looks like. But beyond that, I have no clue. Now, do we actually equip our security forces? How do you get to a point where they are dying?
The security forces that are deployed to these areas, for example, those that have been deployed to go and guard some of these ranches,
yes,
they have armored personnel vehicles.
Yes.
They are GSU, heavily well-trained, heavily armed. But are they enough? Do they have the orders to do the job?
And do they also know the terrain?
Do they have the orders to do the job?
So you are suggesting that they could be restrained.
Oh, yes.
They are capable of doing what they're saying.
Yes, absolutely.
When you send GSU to a certain area or anti-stock theft police, they will learn the terrain. There's a commander who knows the terrain. They will learn the terrain. They'll get the intelligence. They'll be told, this is how it looks like. It's like deploying them to Somalia today.
There'll be somebody who's
yes.
there already who will tell them this is what's going on.
This is how it looks like.
So,
good morning. 7 a.m. Let's hear the news first.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4
Good morning, this
Spice
is the news
FM.
wire. I'm Naya Ubaga. The government will resettle all the victims of predatory attacks in Laikipia County, even as it apprehends criminal gangs and politicians said to be inciting residents to violence. Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, while addressing the public at Perennial grounds, said the government was dealing firmly with the criminal elements who are terrorizing residents of the Olmoran in Laikipia and other parts of North Rift.
Resettle those people and support them to ensure they are living peacefully. We want a peaceful country and a stable country.
Hawa jamaa wanapata constant supply ya chakula, constant supply ya risasi, constant supply ya bunduki. Bunduki sio kitu ambacho utaenda kwa duka na ununue na shilingi 5. Bunduki ni kitu very expensive. Zile bunduki ambazo kwa nazo sio tu mtu anaweza kwenda kununua bunduki na alete. Lazima kuna mtu ambaye ana facilitate.
Deputy President William Ruto has urged Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai to decline political assignments and discharge his duties of law enforcement fairly. Speaking at his current residence, where he hosted leaders from Kisii, the DP said the ongoing skirmishes in Laikipia have exposed serious lapses in the country's security service.
I want to ask the IG and his team to carry out their mandate in accordance with the Constitution and to avoid the politicization of security in Kenya.
So far, 8 people have died in the skirmishes and over 150 families have been displaced. President Uhuru Kenyatta has declared the drought ravaging the country a national disaster. The decision follows a meeting he held with leaders from arid and semi-arid lands, where at least 2.1 million Kenyans from 22 counties are facing starvation. The president further directed National Treasury and Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government to spearhead government efforts to assist affected households, including water and food distribution, as well as livestock uptake. The worst affected counties include Turkana, Garissa, Wajir and Marsabit. The country needs at least 2 billion shillings to respond to the drought situation in the country. Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa had said poor rainfall resulted in the drought situation.
The biggest problem because of the drought is water and food. There is hunger in almost all the northern counties. I want to assure Kenyans, particularly the affected counties, that this matter is receiving the highest attention at the highest level of government. And Cabinet has already put in place a multi-agency team that will be specifically addressing the drought situation in the country.
Law Society of Kenya President Nelson Havi says he has heard the cries parents, guardians and teachers have raised concerning the CBC. Havi says the society will file a petition challenging CBC in court next week. He further says the education system in Kenya shouldn't be an expensive, inefficient and ineffective experiment with our children and their future, as is our leadership. This event comes as parents have given mixed reaction about the curriculum.
I felt like I changed the career and make it suitable for me to be with my son when he does his homework, so that I'm able to monitor him by myself.
Naamuka saa 11 asubuhi, naenda kazi, kurudi kwangu nyumbani ni saa 3 usiku. Ndio napata mtoto analia kwa kitanda, analia kwa kiti, akiniambia dadi, nimetumwa mpira ya karatasi. Mpira ya karatasi nitatoa wapi na mulibani mambo ya polythene bags?
This is an investment I think every parent needs to make, because many parents are saying they have work to do and everything else. That is true, but also your child's education cannot be delegated to somebody else. It has to start with you.
DCI police have arrested a man reported to have sodomized two 7-year-old minors in Muranga's kennel. The suspect, identified as Kariuki alias Moi, was arrested after the two boys went missing from their homes on Monday night. The minors were immediately rushed to Muranga Level 5 Hospital for specialized medical attention. The suspect was also escorted to the same facility to have the necessary specimen collected from his body for the forensic analysis. DCI say judicial procedures to have the suspect answer to his crimes are ongoing. A new regulator or ombudsman for regional trade disputes with powers to investigate and address unfair trade practices and subsidies will begin operating at the end of this year. EAC Secretary General Peter Muthui said the Trade Remedies Committee will assist businesses in the Bloc 5 member states when they have concerns over unfair trade deals from foreign rivals. And finally, China has pledged 200 million yuan worth of aid to Afghanistan, including food supplies and coronavirus vaccines. The aid comes as Beijing said it was ready to maintain communication with the Taliban government. It added that the establishment of the new interim government was a necessary step to restore order in Afghanistan. The Taliban's interim cabinet was announced last week, with the country declared an Islamic emirate. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
It's built up quite significantly on the Thika Superhighway this morning, getting out into the city. No mean feat today. Not so bad on Kiambu Road, at least not where you're connecting with the Muthui Square, but further along, especially around Rock City, it's actually quite heavy. Then going towards the DCI headquarters this morning. All right, we're also looking at traffic in the eastern part of the city as well. Also, we're looking at a lot of it on Jogo Road today, and not so bad then as you get towards the roundabout and then onto Landis Road. That's moving along smoothly without too much of an issue. Mombasa Road, however, continues to be chock-a-blocked, moving very slowly today, bumper to bumper in a lot of areas between Sabaki and the SGR. Langata Road also has piled up quite some. The Southern Bypass not looking too bad. Then just keep going towards Ngong Road as you try to get into the city. You might want to stay off of Langata Road, at least for now, because it's slow getting to the roundabout. Apart from that, doesn't look too bad. Remember, *712#. For those of you in Mombasa using the ferry this morning, KFS has told us that there are 3 ferries up for service this morning. Use M-Pesa, not cash, so you can get through. Let's talk in a bit and see what it looks like as we get into a traffic hour proper. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room. The
7
only
minutes
way
after 7
to start
on the
your
9th day of the 9th month. Good morning and welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. This is the second hour. We are live on SpiceFM and we are also live online. SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and our website www.spicefm.co.ke. CT Muga has the day's proverb.
No,
it's the other one.
You know.
The child who goes...
Yeah, I know, but I really want to mention this one. But
Scratch the HCC.
Let the people decide.
You know, this people's choice, my friend. The people have spoken.
Yes.
So I will comply. A child who likes visiting other homes comes back home to find that the family has slaughtered and the meat has been eaten by other members of the family.
Bas. In the child's absence.
While they are tanga-tangaing.
Voila, things are happening.
While they are manga-mangaing.
Things are happening.
Things are happening.
Ate meat. While you were away, we ate meat.
Yeah.
And it's finished.
And it's finished.
There's none for you.
Not just we ate, we slaughtered. Connie, how far had this kid gone?
How long were you away?
We slaughtered, cooked, and ate.
And washed the dishes, so that it removed all evidence of the same.
You know, maybe one doesn't see it often in town now, but children playing, man, they could play miles away from home.
But they can also smell the scent of meat cooking in their home.
Yeah, I think.
And they can tell, uko ni kwetu, si kwa kina.
Yes, they do.
It's like a watering hole. They come back.
Sometimes. When they get very
They
engrossed
get carried
in what they're
away.
doing. Yes, they do.
Well, if they're the tanga type, they will not
They'll
come
just
back.
keep wallowing in the waters
Because
away from home.
if I remember my own childhood, the tanga also meant eating in other people's homes.
Yes.
And with the time, you also knew who cooked what when. So you avoided your own house when you knew that what was being cooked was something you didn't particularly like.
Yes.
Yes. And parents figured this out.
And then they knew.
And they knew.
How to upstage you. Some two interesting stories from the counties before we now start looking at the assault counties. Right? One is what's happening in Nairobi. Now, according to the law, there are two public service boards in counties. One is the County Public Service Board that deals with hiring people for the executive office. And then there's a County Assembly Service Board, okay, that deals with, it's like the Parliamentary Service Commission, deals with staff hired by the County Assembly. Now, the County Public Service Board of Nairobi does not have a CEO because City Hall has now resuscitated a bid to appoint a chief executive officer and secretary to the Nairobi County Public Service Board. After last year, they rejected former Governor Mike Sonko's nominee for the position, Philip Kungu, on grounds that he did not meet requirements set out by the law. In an advert in the dailies yesterday, the office of the acting governor asked interested candidates to submit their applications by Friday next week. They say the duties of the officer are preparing and circulating minutes and agenda of board meetings, developing annual work plans for the board with the guidance of the chairperson, as well as conveying decisions of the board. This is City Hall's third attempt to fill the position since 2019, when it fell vacant after Meshach Guto's term ended in September last year. The then Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko forwarded the name of Mr. Philip Kungu to the Assembly for vetting and approval for appointment as secretary to the board. He was scheduled to appear before the Labour Committee on the 5th of October for vetting and approval. He didn't turn up.
And why did he not turn up?
Only he knows. Something interesting, though, is that this Mr. Philip Kungu was a chairman of the County Public Service Board.
He was.
He served his 6-year term, he finished his 6-year term, and he left office.
Yes.
Now, while Sonko was nominating him to be the CEO of a board that he chaired, is something, it's questions you ask yourself.
It's interesting, isn't it? But what I found interesting when you're reading that was there's a portion where someone says they found that he wasn't qualified. How? I mean, I'm asking, so what are these qualities that somebody who vies for that position, are they clearly stated these are the things that this person, the qualities the person must have?
And what qualities did he then have to be chair previously?
Those are the questions you must ask.
Yeah. Because what were you looking for?
I am certain that they are stipulated and there are clear indications of what is required of a person to be on the board and even to be chair.
Yes.
I'm certain.
Interesting.
This gentleman is an architect. Okay? Apart from just being a practicing architect, registered and all the works, he also teaches architecture. Now, the thing about mini architecture, they're also called town planners because they are town planners. Now, by the time you get to that level and you are in the board or chairing the board of a county, runs a county, surely you do have some understanding, even if it's at a very minimum, of what should happen in a place like a county and what is required within a county.
Yes, you would. You would. So in terms of qualifications, almost as though you're saying there's no question about whether he was qualified or not for the position.
Unless it's a reporting issue that maybe the report by the committee had, among other things, they said he he doesn't qualify to take over this position, not because of not meeting the academic qualifications or blah, blah, blah. It's because of other reasons that we say we reject this nominee.
If it isn't stated clearly, then unfortunately
it leaves room for speculation.
Yeah.
Yes, we're only commenting on what has been. But it raises the question: should it not be clear that when you are talking about positions, you also talk about the requirements?
Yep.
Like now, we have new commissioners in the IEBC. Man, I have never seen a list of applicants with the sort of qualifications that I saw there. God Almighty.
Fun stuff to
Highly qualified. I also think, but I don't know the details, but just looking at this, I'm thinking Sonko was also just playing those games that he plays.
Mm-hmm. Very likely.
Why would you nominate a former chair to be the new CEO?
And he was the chair.
And he's the immediate former chair. Not that he was a chair 17 years
His term
ago.
had just ended.
He's the immediate former chair of the board, right? And then now you nominate him to be. It's the same thing that he was doing with the nominations for deputy governor.
Yeah.
Throw that name there, let them go, let them reject it and say, okay, give me time, then I look for somebody else.
And he continues doing his thing.
He continues doing his thing. In the meantime, the county must employ people. In the meantime...
But in the absence of a board duly constituted, then guess who employs people? It is him.
Yep.
Not the board.
Yep.
Yes.
The second interesting county story comes from Nyeri. Nyeri Deputy Governor Caroline Karogo has gone to court seeking to have her boss compelled to release her salary that's been withheld since November 2019.
Surely.
In an application at the Labour and Employment Court in Nyeri, Dr. Karogo claims Governor Muthui Kahiga has locked her out of office. She was sworn in 2018 after approval by the County Assembly. However, the honeymoon with Kahiga, the fourth Nyeri governor, did not last. Court papers filed by lawyer Harrison Kinyanjui indicate the DG fell out with her boss the following year. Karogo claims that she's been using her money to fuel her official vehicle. She has persevered to the point that she cannot do so anymore, according to the lawyer. Kinyanjui says besides her withheld monthly salary of 685,000 shillings and 685,250 shillings, she's been denied a house, a phone and entertainment allowances, last received in November 2019. Now, I'm wondering, when you are a deputy chief executive of a county, does your salary come from the governor?
How could he withhold it?
Oh, yes, he can.
How?
There is the process of ensuring that your name is on the payroll. A governor can ensure your name is not on that payroll, so you don't get paid.
Or can he give instructions to payroll to say, hold this particular salary?
He can.
How?
Yeah.
But you're in office legally.
Yeah.
Yes,
you are duly in office.
Yes.
Can a president tell somebody, no, you know what, don't pay so and so?
Yes.
And yet that person is in office.
I'm not saying it is a legal thing to do. You're asking the question, can they do it? Yes, they can.
For whatever reason, they can.
This is the CEO. He tells the person who's in charge of payroll, you remove that name. They'll remove the name.
Or withhold this person.
They will withhold it. They will withhold
But
it.
how? What kind of instruction would that be? I mean, it has to be written instruction. If you are the person who's paying out and you know this is the governor, this is the deputy governor. The salary is not even set by you. It's not set by the governor. It's not set by the county's public service board. It is set.
The question.
The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has said how much a deputy governor earns and the allowances that they need to get.
Eric, that question.
Now,
would be
surely, a
interesting
salary. You can say about, maybe claiming some things here and there that need to be signed off. But salary?
Yes, they can.
Kona lipo kama mjengo?
Hata si hivyo. If it was being paid through Serikali Coup, national government, I would ask, how does he have the power? But
County
being paid within the county, where he's the governor.
He's the CEO of the county.
Yeah.
If he doesn't want to get paid, he won't get paid. It's not complicated. I don't see it as being complicated. Look, what I'm talking about is an abuse of power. Okay?
Yeah, it's clear.
You have the authority, but you are misusing that authority to get back, clearly, to get back at someone.
Yeah, sure. Eric, I hear your question coming in. Should it happen? Of course it should not.
It should not happen.
Can it happen? Absolutely, because it is happening. And then we can see that.
I can understand some things. I can understand, for example, a car being withdrawn, okay, you are driving this fuel guzzler and then you're sent a small older vehicle. I can understand that. You know, those administrative frustrations. I can understand your security being changed. I can understand your office, being moved. So, okay, what we're doing is we need to renovate it. We want to renovate this office, so you'll operate from that corner there.
But your salary and allowances being withheld?
Salary.
Being withheld?
Salary is not even signed off. But what do you mean?
Eric, if you want to understand the full extent to which power can be abused,
this is
an
it.
Example,
Let's play.
Yes.
She's not held back that they've had a sticky relationship, especially soon after he came into office. It's not been secret. So obviously this withholding of salary clearly is a way he's trying to stick it to her for one thing or the other, and probably wants an audience where they duke it out and say, okay, this is the issue, let's see if we can sort it out. It's not happening face to face. She's taken it to court now and said, look, okay,
by the time
if you want to play hardball, it has reached the zenith. She's at the point where she said, hey, my friend.
Those are many months.
Yes.
685,000. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hey, that's a lot of money.
Brother.
That's a lot of money.
Those are many houses.
That's a lot of money.
In a shamba.
No, there are many houses. And I'm not referring to some of those structures that we saw in that same county, where the billboard announcing that particular structure was bigger than the toilet itself.
Here on this ground stands.
Yes.
This is a very interesting one. What it basically is exposing here is that we have people in our country who are paid like casual laborers.
Yes.
It's like you've come, it's a mjengo.
Yeah. You want to
Pangani line up every Friday, you're paid by the foreman. Well, you're paid. And that's how our deputy governor is paid.
Surely. Where was the Jakuana Tuesday?
Yeah, I have not been seeing you in the office.
Yeah.
Eric, I think with more of these stories, we are going to perhaps understand with greater clarity the full extent to which impunity can manifest itself. What manner of gumption do you have to actually do this?
Honestly, for whatever reason, I've ticked you off, whatever. Then
if it is indeed found that this has actually happened, remember this is an allegation that's filed in court by one party. The other party, let's hear what they say. But if indeed this would be the case.
This is not the first time that Dr. Karogo has talked about what she has called maltreatment from the governor. It's not the first time she has spoken. It's not the first time she has spoken.
She has never said that she is not getting a salary.
But she has talked about other frustrations.
Yes.
It could have been that this is one of them, but she has never said and given you the detailed report of the frustrations that I have been going through are 1, 2, 3, 4.
You know,
it could have been included
by
in
the
this.
time somebody goes to court, okay,
the frustrations have reached.
It isn't as though it happened the day before. I am certain they have sought other measures to mitigate the situation, to have it resolved, and nothing has happened. So they figured, do something. Let this thing go to court, let it be public. Because I'm sure the people waited and said, no, don't do this. Let's talk about this. This is a country where people talk, negotiate, and come to an understanding. It's one of the things that Kenyans do well. People arrive at an understanding. What do you think the handshake was? An understanding. What do you think this complete disregard of COVID rules are? It's an understanding.
That's rich, CT.
And what would the understanding here be? Let's tell them and let's do.
Let's do. Okay.
What we tell them is this.
COVID rules are out of the window completely.
And
completely
let's
out of the window. It doesn't matter where the meeting is. People don't wear masks. People just congregate willy-nilly. So...
We are planning to have the Mashujaa Day celebrations at a public stadium.
Yes.
Again. Even after we saw what happened in the last national celebration.
And the aftermath. We spoke about it and said, folks, this is going to give us problems.
This is...
The last celebration threw us into the fourth wave, did it not?
It did. Yep. Yes. We saw it, we spoke about it, and lo and behold. And now we want another wave.
Oh, yes.
And we're talking about a wave that now has been peppered by what? A variant.
Kirinyaga County is going to be hosting Mashujaa Day celebrations in the next 10 days or so.
Kirinyaga County had better start talking to their neighbors because the citizens of Kirinyaga are going to need hospitalization, which will be beyond the capacity of Kirinyaga.
Well, Governor Anne Waiguru told us that she's done a lot of work in terms of healthcare. So they are set.
Wards have hospitals.
And she's also had a conversation with the variant, has she?
350 bed to 400 bed capacity hospitals in the county.
Even people who thought they knew what preparation was, the preparations have been found wanting. This is not that is not to say that the governor is not prepared. It is to say nobody can be adequately prepared for COVID when it actually strikes in
In this
full
case,
force.
nobody can stop COVID.
Yes.
COVID's your reggae.
It's not.
This one can be stopped.
It's not even a dance form.
No.
Yes.
This one, mutakipata.
You know, there is every time you think you understand a concept, like I have always thought I understood the concept of impunity. But living in this country for as long as I have, I am constantly amazed at the things I see. Not read, not just see on TV, but the things I encounter. Yesterday, I decided to take a ride on a motorbike. I consider them dangerous.
Wait. Just stop. Rewind.
Yes.
You did what?
I want to go somewhere. I figured, why don't I try and see how this motorbike things work?
Mm-hmm.
That rider was very good. They knew their motorbike. Man, they knew how to maneuver. However, I realized border passengers or passengering, it's not for the faint-hearted. We broke every rule known to mankind.
Traffic,
Every
humanity.
we rode right across a zebra crossing.
Nice.
We were on the footpath. When a car seemed to have stopped, we passed in between those two cars.
Yes.
I was fully aware that my feet were going to be the fenders should we hit that car. I was aware. And then when the traffic light was clearly red and there's a policeman ahead of us, this gentleman waved at the policeman waved back, and we just continued. But the thing that I liked most, when we got to somewhere near Yaya, the traffic going the direction I was going, chock-a-blocked, you couldn't move. But traffic going in towards Yaya, there was hardly any traffic. So we simply went against traffic.
Of course.
Yes. And there was a lorry coming. We simply avoided the lorry, went round it. You know, all the time I was thinking, this guy is really very good at what he's doing. No, I didn't feel unsafe. But I asked him, because we're having a chat, I told him, first of all, you don't have a helmet. He said, yeah, that helmet. I said, it's not how well you ride. Somebody else may hit you. Maybe you may be doing what you're supposed to do, like what you're doing now, and then somebody hits you. That helmet will save your life. I said, he has also been told that helmets can save lives.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
He's been told.
And we continued. But the thing that fascinated me the most was how the gentleman braked, maneuvered. He brought the bike to a complete standstill at some point. Standstill. I was seated. So was he.
We hope.
I was sitting. I was watching all this.
Yeah.
It was like a movie. Then he just maneuvered it from that stationary position. We were stationary for some 3 seconds, not moving. Then he just started off, moved. I was actually very fascinated by the control this person had of the motorbike. Okay? When I got off the motorbike is when it hit me. But the dangers had just been through. Now, why did I bring impunity into this? This person told me categorically that the reason why they make their money is because they'll get you where you want to go quickly and safely.
Fast and in a hurry.
And fast. And he was right. If somebody had told me there was a jam, I would believe it because I would see it. But on that motorbike, I did not experience a jam.
You moved.
My friend, in a car, that distance, I would have taken at least 10 to 15 minutes. I took 5. And he wasn't sort of like motoring over just cruising along. Now, you tell me, if you look at the way we go about our business in this country, enlarge this scenario. You're talking about a county system that is supposed to pay vendors. Money is given.
Your deputy.
Okay. I think.
County system that's supposed to pay its deputy governor.
Deputy governor.
I think. Let me put vendors aside.
I mean, it's deputy governor.
It's a recurrent expenditure.
Hey, you don't have to guess what they did this month. It's a fixed amount. Let's go, move. But little petty politics comes into play, so let's decide, you know what? I'm not going to pay you for the next 2 years.
What are you going to do?
What are you going to do?
We'll go to a break shortly. Before we do that, let me just tell you. Today is the 9th of September, right?
It is.
On the 18th of September, have you heard anything that's going to be happening at Kasarani Moi International Sports Center? Have you?
Something that's going to happen?
Yes. The Kip Keino Classic is going to take place at, it's a World Athletic Continental Tour Kip Keino Classic, taking place at the Kasarani Stadium on the 18th of September. Now, the one that is interesting here is we have 3-time world champion in the 100-meter race, Justin Gatlin, coming to Kenya.
American champion.
That man can
The
run.
fastest man over 100 meters this season, Bromel Trayvon, is also coming to Kenya. Kenyan national record holder, his name is Ferdinand Omanyala, the one we saw at the Olympics.
Nah, that fellow did
He'll
his
be at
job.
home,
Yes.
and he'll be racing these guys on Kenyan soil. In how many days?
9.
9 days from today. Have you heard about this? I haven't heard about it until I read this here.
I also just saw it in the papers.
Would you believe it?
But it's the Gatlin picture that caught my attention.
Yes.
Then
When
when
you
I
see
saw
Gatlin,
Kenya, I
you're
said,
like, eh?
coming to
What do
Kenya.
you mean?
And it's not Safari Rally.
Justin Gatlin will be racing at Kasarani in 9 days' time. Now, those COVID protocols, please allow people to go to the stadium. Because we are going to Angoro Stadium anyway, in 2 days, 2 days after that. Can you allow people to just get into Kasarani and watch the fastest men on earth race?
But you know, the going to the stadium need not be an issue if we had vaccinated our people. It would
If
be
we
a
are going to Angoro Stadium, what is it? Angoro Stadium and Kasarani Stadium. Stadium. Cancel Stadium.
Just
Wangoro, Kasarani.
one has a bigger capacity than the other.
Zero.
And people are going to go there anyway. So let them just go to this one first. Practice.
Yeah. And then 2 days later, now
Then
we
you
can
now
go
to the real.
Come on. It's 7:30. Let's take a quick break, take a look at the weather and traffic. And then, drought has been declared a national disaster. Let's look at what that means. A very good morning to you. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice
Even
up
when you
your
see someone
life.
being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us to assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well. You know, Muthui is logo.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
Looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning, highs of 23. We clear at some part and lows of 13. Nakuru is partly cloudy at 14, highs of 23, and we'll see highs of 20 in Nyeri where it's raining at 15. Out in Kisumu, 18 degrees, cloudy conditions, highs of 27 and lows of 18. Kakamega this morning is raining at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 15. Mombasa, light rain at 23, highs of 29 and coming down to lows of 23. 25 will be the low in a rainy Malindi this morning, going to highs of 29. Out in Kampala this morning, mostly cloudy conditions, highs of 26 and lows of 17. Dar es Salaam is mostly clear at 22, lows of 21 and highs of 30. Lagos this morning is clear at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 25, and we'll have a mostly clear morning in Kinshasa, highs of 33 and lows of 23.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Still clogged up on Mombasa Road this morning. Wow, that old Mombasa Road, which folks are using as an option, is packed completely. Moving along very slowly then. The Southern Bypass looking pretty good. The Thika Superhighway, they're clogged up right there at the junction. From Survey through Kiambu Road now has piled up. We're looking at traffic, extended traffic then along Chiromo, all the way through into the city, moving very, very slowly this morning. All roads lead into the city centre. Joko Road is actually behaving very well this morning. Okay, getting off onto Landis, Kamkunji not giving you too much of an issue today. Look at details of more as we go along. We're in traffic hour now. Let's see what it looks like around the city. We'll take a look west, out into Naivasha, Nakuru, Kisumu. Let's know what that looks like in a bit. SpiceFM.ke. On Twitter, text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM,
All right,
Nairobi.
25 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. In the Situation Room with you this morning is Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C.T. Muga. So, again, Ndu, President yesterday meets with leaders from the arid and semi-arid lands of this country.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And he has declared that what? Drought has now been declared a national disaster. And we're looking at some counties, Baringo, Kwale, Laikipia, Kitui, West Pokot, and Lamu, among counties at risk of severe food shortage. But we don't know exactly what, beyond the distribution of water, and food rations and the buying of livestock, which is something that had been floated previously. The president then went on to say that together with the National Treasury and the Ministry of Interior, they were going to spearhead some efforts to assist the affected households and regions. And he said, we're going to let you know details of this comprehensive drought mitigation measures, and they'll be made public in due course. Okay, so that's what the plan is. First of all, you know, in order for interventions to be made of a national disaster moment, it must be declared, right? So there's a lot of, usually if you look at, you normally just wait for it to be called one. Once it's called one, there's a lot of assistance that can come in then as a result of such, whether it's external support, etc., etc. But that declaration needs to be made. Once it is made, then you can see a lot of release, which is sometimes the reasoning given behind that. We are waiting for it to be declared once. Once it's declared, then other things can happen. But the funny thing here is that we do not hear what mitigation is going to be taken beyond the provision of water, the buying of relief food, and the buying of livestock that is already weak from individuals. We don't know beyond that what's going to happen. Is food going to now start leaving and going to these particular counties? Is that going to start today? Are we going to have another? Nothing. We did hear previously that 2 billion shillings is the money that has been allocated or that will be set aside for these mitigation efforts. And that money would then be used in some cases to buy some of this, to now distribute water and such. Now that it has been declared a national disaster, you now pave the way for these things to be done. But it's only those three things that we know about.
That before a national disaster is declared, you can't do these things.
You can. It helps you in mobilizing.
Once you declare it a national disaster, it does that for you. It opens up the taps there of assistance. It really does.
It basically says that the government can now focus attention. It basically says that the National Treasury can even go to Parliament and say, I have a supplementary budget. I want to remove some money from
this and put it here.
Building roads and putting it into.
It allows you to divert funds because now all attention must be focused on this disaster.
But look at this way. The National Drought Management Authority has been in place for many years. It's fully constituted. It has a board. It has an executive and a secretariat. Okay? According to the NDMA, the deterioration of the food security situation in Kenya is due to the dismal performance of the March to May long rains, the short rains, and the effects of the pandemic. So pandemic, a whole of last year. The short rains, the end of last year. The long rains, March to May this year. So this is not something that's new. The situation, according to the authority, was exacerbated by the desert locust invasion. Desert locust invasion, the whole of last year. It was unfolding, it was being seen, and the impact that was having on crops. The report said the number of people facing acute hunger would grow to 2.4 million during the October to December short rains, where the Met Department has forecast to be below normal. So the Met Department is already saying what we saw last year, we are expecting to see a continuation of it in coming months. This is not something that was prepared for the President's eyes yesterday. These are reports that were released by NDMA, the Met Department and others to the Ministry of Devolution and Asals, to the government, to Dr. Matiang'i's Committee of Coordination of Government a long time ago. It must have gotten to the President's desk before yesterday's meeting. Counting facing the risk of severe drought are, let's count them, Baringo, Kajiado, Kwale, Laikipia, Lamu, Makueni, Meru, Taita Taveta, Tharaka Nithi, West Pokot, Embu, Narok and Nyeri are at low risk. Drought alert, Garissa, Isiolo, Kitui, Mandera, Marsabit, Samburu, Turkana, Tana River, Wajir. NDMA Chief Executive James Odor says if we do not receive rain from October, the drought might evolve into an emergency. More than 400,000 people in the coast are in dire need of food, with 4 out of this region's 6 counties requiring urgent intervention, according to the authority. This is not just some, ragtag at a non-governmental organization. The government's own agency says if we do not give them urgent intervention today, they could die. So the President, very well done, says, let me meet with the leadership from this area. So let's talk about how we can coordinate this. First, let's declare this a national disaster. Good enough. The government has set aside 2 billion shillings to be utilized on response. Is that enough? Obviously, when they're sitting there, they know it's not enough because the government is seeking 8.7 billion shillings for interventions like food and safety nets, health and nutrition, provision of water, improvement of agriculture, peace and security, and drought coordination. 8.7 billion shillings. The government has 2 billion shillings. 2. In terms of percentages, what is that? This, the government then says, after we have declared a national disaster, you, Ukuri Atani, the CS for National Treasury, go and work out modalities and a plan of how we're going to roll this out. This is where I'm having a problem. I'm having a problem because we are still saying we are going to act. We are still talking as people are facing severe food shortage and water shortage today. Unless what Ms. Kanzedena was reporting was not what exactly was discussed, or the outcome of this meeting, then there's something we're missing here.
When we had the invasion of the locusts, the way the parent ministry and the departments and the institutions that deal with locusts managed it informed us. I was fairly impressed. Because when you talk to people in that field, they could actually tell you, this is what we are foreseeing. And you would see it happening. This is what we're doing. And they would explain it. The spraying is going to do this. There's the biological aspect of it. There's the chemical aspect of it. All that was explained. The locusts eventually went wherever locusts go when they finished visiting Kenya. But that was a disaster in the making. And we saw what the ravages of the visitation of the locusts. Now, locusts do not come to this country every year. Drought does. Famine does. We even know the areas that are most likely to be hit. And usually most likely because they're perennially hit by the same problem. Yes.
And you know when?
You even know when. Forget COVID. This story that we're talking about now, even before COVID, it was the same story. What is it that we do from one year to the other to mitigate, for instance, the water shortages? What is it? Or is there nothing that can be done until we declare it a national disaster?
I refuse to believe that there's nothing that can be done. And when you want to look at famine, then you can also look at floods, right? There are floods every year in this country.
Yes.
And then there are people who are often asked to move to higher ground. We saw the absolute, destruction that happened West Pokot, which I believe there are still people today.
Baringo.
Flooding, schools, underwater, an entire part of a national park. Underwater. A lot of water in this country. Now, on the other side, then you see famine. And these are changing weather patterns. But you know what? I think once you know, and this is just ascribing the most simplicity to this thing. It's a pattern. What does that mean? That over a period of time, things are going to happen in a certain manner that you can even predict. The weatherman tells us, the Met here tells us, this is what it's likely to be. We're going to receive less rain. We're going to receive longer periods of dry season because of 1, 2, 3. We're going to even experience such an amount of rain. So you are aware. Now, we're not talking about some far-off outer space intergalactic formula that we're saying apply. I am saying that there are things that can be done. Sure, in the meantime, you can put in stopgap measures, but my thing is, what is going to happen to make sure that we don't get into this problem again? Have a conversation with Eugene Wamalwa today, right? Ever since he got into that office, is this the first time he's talking about these mitigation measures of how we're going to buy off livestock and give food and give water? It's not the first time. It's not the first time in the administration where he has sat. I'm saying, what is it that we need to do to see to it that these problems don't continue to be the bane of the existence over and over again? Can we dam water? Can we dam water?
Yes, we can.
There are countries on this planet where you're able to dam water and pipe it to other parts of the country. We're not talking about something that cannot be done, and we know that there are experts in this country who can do it. But why don't we pay attention to it? Why don't we pay attention to some of these mitigation efforts? Why can't we dam water? Why can't we have proper storage? Why can't we do it? Why can't we use the intelligence that is very clear and available in this country to then plan forward? Because at the end of the day, you have the information. Why not use this data for something more? Why must you always deal in a state of emergency? Why must you always deal in a state of emergency? And then guess what? The rains will come, right? People would have been fed, and then everybody sits back and we relax. But next year is coming, and it's going to happen again. Why do we always have to deal with the situation when it comes, as opposed to saying, let's put down these plans, implement them to make sure that we deal with this problem once and for all?
I'm stuck at the present. Much as and it's very right, let's look at that big picture of why can't we prepare and why can't we be ready. I am looking at the present. Presently, there are 2 emergencies, all right? One is insecurity in some parts of the country. Another one is hunger, drought in many counties of this country. We're talking about 23 ASAL counties covering approximately 88% of Kenya's landmass. 88% of Kenya's landmass. The president has had a meeting and he says, we declare this a national disaster. As we speak, there are people who have no food today. What the government is doing is it's still talking. It's still talking about distribution of resources, of assistance, putting money. It's going to be a cash transfer program, and we will make sure that we can have a livestock off-take program. We have all these things on paper, but it's still talk. And I'm stuck on that because it just says, apart from talking, everything else is, just laissez-faire. It will happen when it happens. We have a security situation in Laikipia. People are being evicted from their homes. We have over 300 people who are camped somewhere in Polytechnic, in churches, in Olmoran Township. And we are going to arrest 2 MPs, and we are going to look for a third one. And then we will deal with this issue. We are going to deal with those bandits. They're heavily armed, but we will deal with them. You know what? The people of Olmoran should not worry. They should just continue sleeping out in the cold and not being sure what they're going to do tomorrow or the day after. Who is the next to be killed? We will deal with it.
And children shouldn't worry.
Children should. Going to school is not. It's a right. It's a government requirement. But if push comes to shove, like now, you can just stay without going to school. Don't worry.
And if your homestead is burnt to the ground, Please, you're not the only one.
Yeah, not the only one.
Others have also had their homes burned to the ground.
Yeah.
And they also
And they got over it.
But did they die? No, they didn't die. They lived. Okay. So just that attitude of government is what I'm having an issue with. And especially because we're talking about 2 meetings chaired by the president. One is a security situation in Laikipia chaired by the president at the beginning of this week. On the 3rd day of the week, the president chairs another one to talk about drought and the people who are facing hunger and acute food shortage in the country. 2 meetings chaired by the head of state twice in a week. And all of them are talking about action that's going to be taken. A plan that's going to be unveiled in coming days. Not even saying by the end of the day tomorrow there'll be a plan and this is how the plan is going to be. And we need to know. It's just a very, over-the-top statement. What needs to happen next? We are going to deal with it.
So if we can't deal with what's happening presently and do something about it now,
you think we can plan?
Far-fetched plan for tomorrow and say, let's make sure we have these things in place today to deal with the situation.
We can't.
So why are we waiting? Why were we waiting for beyond yesterday to start, or beyond a month ago to start sending? If this is the food distribution that's supposed to happen, what were we waiting for?
This plan that they're talking about, the plan did not require the input of these leaders. The plan basically required the experts in government. Even by calling these people, they could have. Yesterday's meeting should have discussed the plan and said, press the go button. That by this morning, by lunchtime today, people will be receiving money on their mobile phones. People in these areas who need to receive this cash transfer program, it's being rolled out. People who need water, this is what is happening on the ground. We have trucks that are going to distribute food. We have water bowsers. This is the plan. There is no plan. The president is asking his officers to go and create a plan. What do you mean?
As early as last week, Friday, relief food was being reported, being supplied to places like Marsabit. Now, relief food from King Salman Humanitarian Aid Relief Center, which means word had gone out, things were being done. There's also the aspect, the perennial problem of government not communicating effectively what they're doing. So we are left to focus on the things we see, which is what they're not doing. What am I saying here? There are people who exist because they are in the relief world. They work to provide relief and solve problems of food for others. Now, in the absence of things like drought, in the absence of things like famine, they may not have work. But you have to coordinate these efforts. They know how to mobilize these resources we're talking about. They know. Now, again, the question I had asked earlier on, did the president need to make the big announcement for some of these things to actually happen? I mean, we know this happens. We're saying there's a ministry that is supposed to look after such matters. Are we saying that every time an alert is broadcasted, we are aware that there is this disaster, people rally around, then we go back to sleep and wait for it? This cyclical thing of must we always wait for it to get to these proportions before we now start talking about...
Must things continuously be in emergency mode?
I think I was looking for that word. You put it well.
Yeah. Yes. Always running after. Let's try. And then even when you should be stepping on it, it's not happening.
What it tells me is that this is how impunity and corruption play into things.
Yes.
There's nothing complicated about providing relief. Nothing.
So we have a ministry that was set aside. Okay, the president set out his government. And in his wisdom, he saw there is need to create a ministry in charge of the 88% of landmass in this country.
Yes.
A proper ministry for it. The Ministry of Devolution and ASALs. Okay? Agriculture, which means food security, is a devolved function.
Yes.
Sawa. Devolution and ASALs is a ministry. Has that ministry coordinated with the counties on how we can ensure that there is proper food security? We can even look back and say, okay, so what have you been doing? We can look back and say, in terms of disaster and emergency preparedness, what have we done? What have you as counties done? This is what we as the national government done. Is there a plan such as that? If there was such a plan, we'd be seeing its fruits today. We don't see that. This Jubilee administration will come and tell us, but you see, but it's they. How many members of parliament, how many times have MPs raised this in the House? How many? Jubilee has control of the national government. Jubilee has control of the National Assembly. Jubilee has majority of the Senate. Jubilee has a majority of devolution. Yes. And with the cooperation that they have with KANU, the cooperation they have with Wiper, the cooperation they have with ODM, Jubilee has control of everything in the country. So any policy that Jubilee wanted to have had could have been discussed and implemented. Yes. So we cannot even sit back and say, it's because of the opposition, because no.
That story comes.
It just points to a lack of focus.
Or a focus in a different direction from the one we expect them to have.
Exactly. I think there is focus. However, there is no focus on clearly what is important for the people of the country. There's focus, because it's not possible that there's a lack of focus, because you see other things where they're paying a lot of attention to, and you would find that, all the boxes are ticked, T's crossed, I's dotted without an issue. And so forever, the things that should matter, the life and death of the citizens, the livelihoods of citizens, the ability to be able to feed their families, the ability to be able to go from one place to the ability to wake up in the morning and make it to the end of the day alive. Things that you should actually be bothered with. There's no focus there. The attention, the priority is on things that don't matter. That's what it is. So you ask yourself, what kind of situation are you in where you have, how many times are we going to sing this song? The best laid plans, the best experts in this country, the best of the best of the best. It's like throwing your pearls before swine, because it doesn't yield anything. It doesn't matter. The implementation, the corruption and impunity that you see is what is going to continue to keep this country at crawling level.
This one isn't even crawling. Actually, it's walking backwards.
Right?
Yes. Crawling, you assume they're moving forward. Every mwananchi in this country plans on how it is they are going to exist. Those who have children plan for those children. Those who are members of SACCOs plan and save in those SACCOs, so that when the year begins, they borrow money to pay fees for the year. So they know fees, I will not be bothered with.
My children will not be sent home, this kind of thing.
I'm going to be worrying about how they're going to come back home. That's why, for instance, when COVID strikes and people have to be brought home, there's a hue and cry. They're wondering, how on earth are we going to sort this out? You know why? They're planned.
It was not budgeted for.
No. Yes. Now you're telling me an entire ministry
can't plan.
Year in, year out, knowing that these are the problems that these counties have every single year. You can't plan to mitigate. No.
And it is going to happen.
From time immemorial.
That's the thing that blows my mind completely. Okay, let's say that you didn't know. 2020 passed. You had no idea that this was going to happen in 2021. You have a mitigation agency. You have an agency whose job, you have a monitoring agency whose job is to look at these things and tell you, look, folks, it doesn't look too pretty. This is what is going to happen. Not maybe, not perhaps. It is going to happen. In advance, they tell you.
The monitors tell you well in advance.
Can you do something about it?
And even give you details. They're granular about it.
Yep.
But no. You have that one, that is yours. You have external organizations also, like the FAO, who are working on things like this, and they tell you, by the way, you know what, guys?
You guys.
This is what it's looking like. You might want to get your house in order, get your ducks in a row, and start to do something about it. Still, you just be sitting and thinking, maybe this time it won't happen, even if they think it will, hoping that it won't, because I don't understand why you wouldn't take that warning and then do something about it. Early warning systems are there. Why are they called that? Early warning system, so that you can do. Then they even go further to advise you what you can do about it. What more do you want? And then when I tell you that you are told as a citizenry really how they feel about you, and I ask you to believe them over and over again, what more do you want? What more do you want?
There's a very sad photo here at the back page of The Nation today. Residents of Nerengelup village in Turkana County get food donations from a church on Monday. Up to 2.4 million people are facing acute hunger in the country. They are getting some food donation from a church. And if you just look at them, that land is barren. The women who are queuing to receive this food look like, this is what they just expect, to be able to walk back many kilometers to go and make food for their children. In fact, they walked to this particular area with their kids who are not in school. They're here.
And as you can see from the pictures, they're of school-going age.
Yes.
No, they're not in school. What are they?
These children are not. It's Monday. They are not in school.
They're not in school. Kwale County, it's not Kwale County, was it Lamu County the other day, had to shut down a number of schools because they don't have water. Kilifi County.
Yep.
They had to shut down a number of schools. There's no water. So how many things can you not do? You cannot give children water to drink. They cannot bathe. You cannot have your sewage systems running properly. So what are we doing here? You cannot cook. So what are we doing here?
Did I hear you mention sewage system?
Running properly. Kenya's biggest conversation. How are you doing? It's coming up to 8 o'clock. In the next hour, we have a conversation with the Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome. We want to hear what she plans to do in her tenure as Chief Justice of the Republic. Keep you right here for that conversation. Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. TRT MP William Kamket and former Laikipia North MP Matthew Lampurkel, who were arrested and detained yesterday for allegedly fanning violence in Laikipia West, will be arraigned today. The two leaders will face incitement to violence charges. However, some leaders have come out to defend the two, saying they're innocent.
Hajahusika kwa vyovyote, na sababu ya kushikwa kwake ni kwa sababu yeye ni kiongozi ya jamii ndogo ya Pokot. Ni wakati sasa Uhuru Kenyatta anatakikana kuingilia haya maneno ya Laikipia na maneno ya usalama katika taifa hili letu la Kenya, na kutimua Matiang'i, kutimua Karanja Kibicho, kutimua Inspector General Mutiambai, na natembea kwa sababu wao wameshindwa na kazi ya kuimarisha usalama katika taifa hili letu la Kenya na katika sehemu ya bonde la Ufa.
Meanwhile, Rift Valley Regional Commissioner George Natembeya has said the ongoing violence in Laikipia is instigated by politicians and other powerful people in the community. He said the conflict is part of a bigger plan of creating insecurity and evicting legal landowners from the county.
Hiyo mifugo sio wale wafugaji ambao mnaona pale wamebeba bunduki. Ingine ni ya watu maarufu sana. Hao ndio wanalinda ile mifugo na wengi walikuwa summoned juzi, hata kama walienda kuruka kule kwa ofisi, lakini tunajua kwamba imekuwa na impact kwa sababu wanaendelea kutoa mifugo. Ile report tumepata ni kwamba kuna wale ambao wanasema kwamba wataondoa mifugo kwa sasa, alafu wajipange sasa kuregesha vijana karibu 500 Morans kuja kupigana na serikali. Meaning kwamba haya maneno tumekuwa tunasema tukirudia, we are not just posturing. Ni vita ambavyo vimepangwa kuhakikisha kwamba sehemu hiyo haina amani.
Most residents who vacated have urged the government to find a permanent solution to end the unrest in the county.
Naona kaa nitapotesha maisha yangu juu hata wakati hiyo ingine tulikuwa tunakaa huko na hata mse yangu akauliwa huko. Sasa mimi nimeona nipeleke usalama ya hawa watoto wenye niliwachwa na marehemu Joseph Ewata.
Mzidi hata nanyi kutuombea tupate usalama. Mimi nasikia niko na homa sauri ya kulala huko msituni nikitorokea majangili.
Kuangalia nyuma hivi tukaona ameingia msituni. Sasa tukajua ni maadui.
Sasa sio watu hata wanasimama barabara. Mmoja akaingia msituni.
As the debate on CBC progresses, there are nations that are 100% successful in implementing the education system. Countries such as China and Singapore are said to be the best example that the CBC can be implemented if the debate is left to experts. Curriculum specialist Jane Mbuya says the CBC curriculum is actually way much better than the 844 system.
CBC combines two things that 844 fails to do. It combines theory and practice by simply taking learning back to the learner. Let's look at China today. Everybody talks about China, how China is doing so well, they're able to sustain themselves economically and that now they're a model.
As the CBC system continues to prosper in such countries, there are those who've suspended the implementation of the curriculum, such as Pakistan, for various reasons.
Pakistan embarked on a journey towards the new paradigm shift in education. But then the discussion took the angle that it is taking in Kenya, where everybody was just, everybody was criticizing instead of critiquing. And they let go of it.
The number of people vaccinated against COVID-19 is still very low among low-income countries. WHO Director Tedros Adhanom says none of these countries has achieved the 10% target coverage of its citizens. WHO says it aims to ensure that all nations in the world achieve the 10% target by the end of this month.
Low and lower middle income countries are not the second or third priority. Their health workers, older people, and other at-risk groups have the same right to be protected. There has been a lot of talk about vaccine equity, but too little action. We don't want any more promises. We just want the vaccines.
And in business, the Kenya Airports Authority has requested a cash bailout from Treasury amid piling debt. The agency's managing director, Alex Gitari, said a decision by the Treasury to mop up 12.5 billion shillings surplus cash from its coffers in 2019 left it broke and unable to settle supplier debt. Gitari said KAA has reached out to the Treasury for a bailout to help meet pressing needs, including clearance of pending bills that continue to attract interest as high as 12 million shillings monthly. At least 10 people have been killed in a fire at a hospital treating COVID-19 patients in North Macedonia. Footage shared on social media showed a building in flames and a thick cloud of black smoke billowing into the air near a main road in the city of Tetovo. Firefighters reportedly extinguished the blaze less than an hour after it broke out at about 21 hours local time. Health Minister Venko Felice warned the number of casualties could rise. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, still building up on Mombasa Road this morning, in and outbound, especially around that Imaradama going then towards Cabana section. Inbound, it's quite heavy from still the Weybridge until SGR, and then further ahead towards Cabanas. It continues. And Ngong Road also getting to the city centre is a bit slow, but shouldn't be too bad as you get to the roundabout. Coming into the city is where most of the traffic is this morning from different parts. North, south, east and west joining in the CBD. This morning. On Jogo Road today has been behaving beautifully. You might want to just drive down to Jogo Road and see the traffic that is not there. All right. Other parts of the city. On the Thika Superhighway, not looking too bad either. Well, actually, that's not true. It's looking terrible. All the way from Survey, heading out towards Pangani, and then you join with Muranga Road, and then into Ngara. It doesn't look good. It's jam-packed there completely, as is Limuru Road, just past the village market, and it's going to snake very slowly into the CBD. We're in traffic hour to be expected. Let's see what happens in a short while as this dissipates, okay? SpiceFM KE on Twitter, talk to us there, just in case you get clogged up, or if you find a good route, let us know that as well.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 8 minutes after 8, this 9th day of the 9th month. Good morning. It was 6 after 6 at 6. It was 7 after 7 at 7. It's 8 after 8 at 8. At 9. This is interesting. Siti Muga has the day's proverb.
I do.
Mm.
A child who likes visiting other homes comes back home to find that the family has slaughtered and the meat has been eaten by the other members of the family.
And this is a Kikuyu proverb.
This is definitely a Kikuyu proverb. And when read in Kikuyu, it begins with mwana, and then the rest I'm not even going to try and pronounce.
There's a similar one in Kikuyu. Zachary will tell you. Kaihuga changa changi, gatigaga kwago gedinjo.
At this rate, I'm going to try and read this one.
You just read that one. Mwana?
Mu shanga
changi.
Yeah. Atigaga kwao.
Gugidinjo.
Yes, that one.
Yeah.
The
just put mwana there.
Yes, this mwana.
The Kikuyu one is kaiho.
Yes, this one atigaga kwao gudijinjo.
Jinjo. Must you do that in order to
no,
you have to go
get
with
the
it.
significance?
Friend,
you don't shake your head like that little bubble doll on the next to your windscreen.
Yes. See? Attempt well made.
Right.
Indeed. So we're going to have a conversation with Chief Justice Martha Koome shortly as she joins us too in this conversation. We want to welcome our audience who join us now on KTN Home. You've been with us. You'll be with us until the top of the hour. We are live on SpiceFM around the country. In Nairobi, 94.4. Malindi, 97.7. Nyeri is 90.9. Eldoret, 96.7. And by the way, people of Eldoret are saying, why are we no longer on the weather forecast for the day?
It's John's fault. Blame it on John.
It's John?
Every time. But we'll figure it out. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Eldoret need to know whether it's going to rain today or tomorrow.
We'll get John on it.
Nakuru is 96.0, Mombasa is 87.9, and Kisumu 102.5. We also live stream the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and our website is www.spicefm.co.ke. Martha Koome was nominated by the Judicial Service Commission. Her name was sent to Parliament. To the President. She went through the entire vetting, and on the 21st day of May 2021, history was made when Martha Koome was sworn in as the first female Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya. Now, there was a lot of excitement around that. I mean, we have gotten to a point where we are not even saying, it's because she's a woman. It's actually because she is qualified. People who watched the interviewing process, when the chair of the panel came out to say, we have nominated Martha Koome, you did not get any backlash of people saying, but why her? But surely.
Couldn't
they have? Everybody was, yes. With that, we agree, yes, she qualifies to be a Chief Justice. Yes, she would serve as a good Chief Justice. Now, she's been in office since that day, the 21st of May, 2021, until today. She's already served over 100 days in office. She's already gone through, she's gotten into the order of the way things are working in her office. She already has a plan of what she'd like to do with her tenure as Chief Justice, what she'd like to be remembered by, how she'd like to see the judiciary deliver justice to the ordinary Kenyan, how she'd like to see the judiciary as an institution stand and relate with the other arms of government. Let's talk about whether it's a court users and the Court Users Association, whether it's the arms of government, the legislature, the executive, and we'll be having a conversation about all this with the Honourable Chief Justice, who joins us on the line. Honourable Chief Justice, a very good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Thank you for having me in your show.
Chief Justice, if you were here with us in the studio, we'd have offered you a very nice seat. It would have made it leather. It's a leather seat, a very good seat. We'd have called it the hot seat and served you some warm breakfast. But we understand that you're busy. You had some meetings in your office, and so we are doing this via video link. Nonetheless, we appreciate you coming here. Allow us to make that seat that you're sitting on the hot seat for the day.
Thank you. I look forward to coming for the breakfast.
Very good. Now, let's just start. I know CT will ask this question. How would you like, how do we refer to a Chief Justice, in order of protocol? Is it Your Honor, Your Ladyship?
Your Honorable
Mheshimiwa.
Your Excellency.
Whichever you're comfortable with, I don't mind being called Martha because that's my name.
Oh, my father would never allow that.
Madam Honorable Chief Justice, we are not going to call you Martha.
Yes?
No.
Okay, then just call me Chief Justice.
Yes.
Okay, that's good enough. We've just been talking about, looking back on that Friday, the 21st day of May, when you were sworn in as Chief Justice, making history as the first female Chief Justice in the country, and everybody celebrated. Now, you've been in office for more than 100 days, and this is not new for you. I mean, you have served in the judiciary for many years, both in the bar, and you have been practicing in the courts for many years, even before that. On the bench and before that in the bar. When you took up the job of Chief Justice, are there things that you realized that you had not known before about how to run the institution of the judiciary? What experiences and lessons have you had so far?
Am I listening?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Eric, Latif. Of course, City Muga for having me in your show today. And thank you very much for the very warm words of encouragement, congratulatory messages that I received from SpiceFM and from Kenyans generally. I'm very, very grateful. What are the surprises that I found in the office of the Chief Justice? As you have said, I have been in this profession for the last 33 years. 15 years practicing as an advocate, appearing in this court every day, and also taking part in ensuring that we get the independence of the judiciary, we get constitutional reforms that guarantee us independent institutions, including democratic space and respect for human rights. So eventually I became a judge and I served from Malindi to Rokichogyo. I know what happens in the courts. But of course, being Chief Justice was a new job that I had seen from a distance. So when I came in office, there were a few surprises. For instance, I found there was no staff in the office of the Chief Justice. All the members of staff that served the former Chief Justices left with them. They are what you would call political appointees. So you come to a very busy office, you find you require expertise, you require advice in legal, in communications, in finance, in ICT, and you're being called upon to attend matters in the Supreme Court, to attend matters in the Judicial Service Commission, to attend to the National Council on the Administration of Justice, including the Kenya law. At the same time, Kenyans also are asking for this and the other, and we're all alone because I only found a secretary who had served the previous Chief Justices, but she was on her terminal leave to proceed on retirement. But she had been asked to kindly wait until I come and give me the keys and hand over to me. So for me, that was a great surprise that I have to run this office from fumes in my system. It takes time to recruit in that and get staff in place. So that was one of the greatest shocks that I got. The rest I could anticipate. I knew we needed judges. We are short of human resource. asset capital.
Yeah.
We say we need 9,000, but we are 5,000, which is just slightly above 50%. So that I was aware of. And so therefore, I hit the ground running because we had to deliver.
Indeed. Honorable Chief Justice, just a couple of days after you assumed office, on the 3rd of June, you said in an interview recently, you wrote to the President and you said you required an urgent meeting with him to discuss 3 matters that you thought required some urgent intervention. One, administration of justice, and this has also included appointment of the judges who were pending appointment, actualization of the Judiciary Fund, and budget for the judiciary. Now, the following day, after your letter, the President appointed the 34 judges. 6 have not yet been appointed. But have you received any response from the President with regards to your request for a meeting to date?
Thank you, Lucky. Yes, I found that we were almost grounding to a hope when it comes to accessing justice to Kenyans. Because as you know, the Court of Appeal and now only 11 judges. And those 11, one serves as the director of Judicial Training Institute, another one also double serve as representative to the Judicial Service Commission. So we were almost operating below the threshold of the constitutional requirement that judges of the Court of Appeal should never be less than 12. When I went to Kisumu, I was really concerned because the Court of Appeal in Kisumu, Mombasa, and Nyeri had been closed for almost 2 years. Appeals are there waiting to be heard, but there are no judges. When it came to the environment and land matters, the case was the same. One judge in Kisumu was serving 3 counties. And you know how emotive land matters receive her. So I was so concerned, I came and I wrote to His Excellency and said, can I please have a meeting? I am yet to learn how to communicate effectively with the executive and the English speaker. But you know, those are very busy offices. Sometimes they do not get time to reply. So the Gazette notice advertised for the appointment of 34 judges. And I was very grateful because those 34 have gone a long way to assist in ensuring we have access to justice. Especially in the Environment and Land Court, 1 judges, and were able to send judges in 8 new counties where there was no judge hearing environment and land matters. So is the Employment and Labor Court. Where we still have a shortage is the High Court. So we will continue to dialogue to see that more judges are appointed. So even if I never got a formal written letter acknowledging my letter, I've continued to engage to see how we can get the 6 judges appointed in many forums that I get, including this one, so that we can move forward to include more judges in the High Court, so that where the 7 left the High Court to go to the Court of Appeal, those vacancies are still waiting to be filled. And we need more judges, especially now that we are going towards the election here.
Yeah.
And the court will be concentrating on election disputes. Yes. So dialogue takes many forms. It can take a written letter. It can take a meeting on the sidelines. of another event, it can take many forms.
It can also take action. Thank you very much. Let's take a break here, Honorable Chief Justice. We are on live on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and also online, having a conversation with Chief Justice Martha Koome right here in the Situation Room. She joins us via video link. We also want to take a look at the connection so we can have it clearer. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather, and take a look at traffic and what's happening on the roads. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Forgiveness is always conditional. Even before God, there's nothing like unconditional forgiveness.
Government doesn't pay you pension until you retire. In fact, they have no money for you. The day you retire, they look for it.
This country is punishing many young people. These young people are more susceptible to be deceived, to be taken advantage of, and they're more susceptible to be bought off.
Let us also talk about where we want our country to go. You know, we are a population of very young people.
We're in a state of capture. The judiciary is under duress. Parliament is in the pocket of the executive. You don't sit and wait for the regime to topple itself. It will never do so.
By the way, let me tell you, these guys are so persuasive. I'm telling you, they can persuade you to sell your grandmother. I'm telling you, they can sell sand in the desert.
City, has anybody on this program said to you as a guest, saying, "Oh, shut up, we don't want to be told what to do"? Have you ever that kind of... Has anybody been
I will not listen.
A bit of advice? Because you're working on the premise that we should all pay heed to these proverbs. It's a very suspect notion.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so we're looking at cloudy conditions in Nairobi. There's a possibility of rain today, and we'll see then later highs of 23 and lows of 13. Nakuru this morning at 21 degrees, mostly cloudy conditions, going to highs of 23 and lows of 14. Nyeri at 16, raining, highs of 20 and lows of 14. Kisumu is raining at 21, highs of 27 and lows of 18. And we're looking at mostly cloudy conditions in Kakamega today. 23 will be the high and lows of 15. Eldoret, raining this morning at 19, highs of just that and down to lows of 13. Mombasa this morning, 25 degrees and light rain, highs of 29 and lows of 23. Malindi is rainy at 25, highs of 29. And then looking into Kampala, 20 degrees and partly sunny conditions, highs of 26 and lows of 18. Whereas in Dar es Salaam this morning, it's raining at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 21. Lagos also wet this morning at 25, highs of 30 and lows of 25. And in Kinshasa this morning, 23 degrees, sunny conditions, highs of 33 and lows of 23.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, still continues to be a thing on most parts of the roads today. Looking at Mombasa Road, quite hot and heavy, and into the city, mishmash of traffic today, coming out of Westlands, coming out of the State House area as well. Kileleshwa, that entire area jam-packed, in and outbound. A lot of traffic today. Ngong Road also jam-packed as you get to the city mortuary roundabout. Jogo Road behaving very well today. You're only just going to get to the Kamkunji roundabout, and that'll clog up just a little bit. We're also seeing traffic coming out of Westlands. We're seeing that on the Thika Superhighway as well, all the way back as far back as Survey, and then joining with Muthui Square, coming out of Parklands as well. Limuru Road packed as you're getting into the city. Let's keep an eye on things this morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
Kenya's biggest conversation, it continues. This is the Situation Room, live on Spice FM, online, and on KTN Home. In the Situation Room with you this morning is Eric Latif, Ndu Oko, and C.T. Muga, having a conversation with Chief Justice Martha Koome, who joins us via video link from her office. From what she said so far, C.T. and Ndu, one, the getting into office and then realizing the weight of the work and the task at hand, the kind of things that she needs to do on a daily basis. She has to manage not just the institution of the judiciary, but also manage the relations with institutions that deal with the judiciary on a daily basis. There is the administration of justice, there is the other arms of government, there is consideration of the budget, there is chairing the Judicial Service Commission. It's a lot of work.
Actually, as I say, the Honorable Chief Justice has her work cut out for her.
Yep.
Now, in more ways than one, we've had a Chief Justice who had a human rights background. The Honorable Chief Justice Martha Koome has a sterling record as a human rights advocate. And now to add on to that, there is a tag of the first female Chief Justice. So over and above everything else that she said, and this one I have to ask Madam Chief Justice is, how do you plan to do things differently? Because the expectations from where I'm sitting are superhuman. Those are the expectations. One, you are the first. One, you have a human rights background. How do you plan to do things differently?
CJ, that's a question to you.
Yes, thank you very much. How do we intend to do things differently? We are guided by the Constitution. That is very transformative. Everything that we do should be according to the Constitution because it has something for everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
If you're talking about women, they are covered in the Constitution. You're talking about human rights, they are covered in the Constitution. If you're talking about the marginal rights, they are covered in the Constitution. So my vision is built on what I found having been done by my predecessor. It is only taking a small transaction to ensure there is social justice. Because the two blueprints, a judiciary transformation framework by my predecessor, Chief Justice Willie Mutunga, looked at building the institution of the judiciary to respond to the expectations of the Constitution. Strengthen our infrastructure, strengthen the access to justice, focusing on human rights. Also the budget, and also ICT as an enabler. The sustained judicial transformation by my predecessor, Chief Justice David Maraga, looked at how to transform the judiciary, make it accountable, ensuring the individual responsibility by the judges to ensure there is access to justice, ensure there is no corruption, and ensure that cases are handled judiciously and with clear cases that are above 5 years old. So I'm continuing with that very strong foundation, with a trajectory on we cannot only reform the judiciary, but also reform the society. social transformation. I'm looking at how we can empower Kenyans so that they are the agents of their own circumstances, to be aware of their rights, how they can claim their rights, how they can use the most law approaches that we have to resolve disputes, how we can have a society that is not prone to conflict. We can resolve our conflicts using the various most law approaches such as the court and next mediation, the small claims court, which in my view is going to be the game changer because it is going to be accessible to Kenyans. The jurisdiction of that court is 1 million shillings, a claim for commercial activities or personal injury claims. And the cases in the small claims court are finalized within 60 days. So I'm looking at how we can reduce the distance between the people and the court. Right now, somebody has to travel 175 kilometers an average to access justice. And you can imagine this is a child who has been defiant, and they have to travel that distance to reach the court, another distance to reach the police, another distance to reach the health service. So how can we have a one-stop shop? And that's what we are looking at, especially the small claims court, that we have been able to start the negotiations with the Nairobi County, the Nairobi Metropolis, which are being built in the informal sector, Nyayo, Embakasi, Kasarani, Bazare, and Gaboreti. Because people don't have to travel all that way to come to Milimani, to the small claims court. So that is my trajectory from the previous two blueprints, that we are looking to empowering the community. When it comes to the justice delivery, I am the president of the Supreme Court. I'm looking towards building the capacity of the magistrates, of the adjudicators in the small claims court, and even the court and next mediation and alternative justice resolution mechanisms, including ADR, so that we have standards across board that ensure that there is efficiency, there is cost effectiveness, and there is access to justice, so that no case should be in court for more than 3 years. Kenyans don't want to keep coming to court year in, year out. And I'm really in conversation with magistrates and judges, and we have almost come to an agreement that nobody wants in their docket a case that is 5 years and above. It's actually a cause of concern to all of us in the judiciary. If in your docket you have a case that is 5 years old and above.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, Chief Justice, there's a lot of work to be done just from what you're saying. And maybe in realization of this, there was another letter that came from your office on the 13th of July when you were writing to Parliament and said, you know what, basically enough of this, summoning of our officers into Parliament at whim, and we have work to do. And you kind of put your foot down and said, this cannot happen anymore. What was the thrust of that particular communication, and what was behind that, really? And how has that been affected going forward?
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Walter. I think you have put it very well. What I was seeking is dialogue with the Speaker of our National Assembly and the Senate, and also a dialogue with the respective committees. For them to understand, judiciary is unique. Judiciary is independent, and our independence is provided in the Constitution. They cannot direct us how to do our work, but we are accountable to Parliament for the resources that are entrusted to us. very unique because the Judiciary and the Judicial Service Commission, our accounting officer is one, our chief registrar, Madam Anna Mandi. So one day she received 3 invitations to attend 3 committees, and all of them are asking similar questions. Why haven't we recruited for certain positions? So you cannot appear in 3 committees one day, one person. You have to cut yourself into 3 pieces. So this is why I wrote a very innocent letter asking, can we please discuss this matter and come up with a coordinated approach on how can we answer to you effectively, because we must answer on resources. And we must also agree in areas that will not look like you are micromanaging or directing the judiciary what to do, who to hire, or even when to hire. You can just ask us how we have spent the money, because that we must account for it. But, we need to engage in this dialogue, this conversation. We need to cooperate, because at the end of the day, we are serving one Kenyan, and everybody is concerned about the administration of justice. So even MPs and senators, they are concerned about the administration of justice. So if they say they will not give judiciary money, they will suffer. It is the Kenyans who will suffer, because then we will not have courts operating in those areas, in some of their constituencies, in some of their areas. Therefore, we must speak. And indeed, we have moved forward. We have moved from that position. And now we are talking to one another. We are understanding one another. We are understanding the unique nature of the services that we render, the unique nature of our position as judges, because you cannot appear before Parliament. Some of them are cases here before us. They cannot go to grill us about the way we do our work. So this is a very delicate balance that we have to strike, to understand that even if we are independent, at some stages we are interdependent.
Right.
So how do we navigate this interdependence without looking like we are micromanaging or entering into one another's reign?
Right. So did they not understand this unique position that the judiciary holds before your communication? Because if we're looking at the 3 arms of government, the executive, the judiciary, the legislature, because it's not as though the judiciary sits on a side. There are 3 arms of government working in congruence, or they should be. Did it then require your communication to make this position known? There's been, the thought that the judiciary is not recognized as being on par with the executive and the legislature. What would you have to say about that?
I think any government which does not recognize one arm of the government is ended to disaster, because the 3 arms must work together to serve Kenyans. It's like a 3-legged stool. You remove one leg and the stool will wobble and fall. So everybody must be concerned that the institution of the judiciary must be respected, be supported to be a very strong, independent defender of the Constitution, the defender of our democracy, the defender of our human rights, must be respected by all. Because we do not have ourselves in the judiciary. We serve Kenyans. We administer justice. But along the way, as people continue doing their work, sometimes maybe they forget that the other institution is sensitive and must be treated with the sensitivity, respect, that is required under the Constitution. So sometimes people go out of the boundaries, and this is why we must continue to talk and dialogue, and whenever looks like they are going out of their bounds, we come together and say, no, this is our area, and this is your area. But we need to interact here and there so that we serve Kenyan property.
When it comes to the same relations, Madam Chief Justice, with the other arms of government, recently there's also been conversation about the judiciary seeking to have a sort of its own security unit, even if it's coming from the police service, but like a judiciary security arm. How far has it gone, and what is informing this? Why does the judiciary want to have its security as sort of aside from those that are deployed elsewhere?
A very good question. And this has been a request and a plan that has been in the works for the last 10 years. At least even before the new constitution, because as you are aware, Parliament has its own security, its own police unit, the Kenya Railway, Central Bank, the Kenya Ports Authority. The judiciary is a very huge institution. We have our establishment in 130 locations in this country, court buildings. We do serious work, very sensitive work. We come into conflict with dangerous elements, terrorists, and that kind of people. We need security, very serious security. I don't know, Rakesh, whether you have ever visited the court, especially the Supreme Court building, and seen how vulnerable we are.
Yep.
Therefore, when I took office, everywhere I went, there was an outcry. Judges, we don't have security, we are taking that. I went to the Anti-Corruption Magistrate Court and was telling me stories of how people charged in their court enter there with guns in their pockets. And they sit there, there's nothing they can do. When they leave court, they have to just get into their car. Sometimes, we give them a vehicle to take them home, but it is not enough to take some all over the location. And they have to enter even an attack. So, we are vulnerable. We are sitting down. And when I came, I wrote to the CS in Syria and Office of the President and said, look, we need our own police unit. Work had been done, reports had been done by a committee of the judiciary recommended that we need our own police unit that manages our 130 force, that manages the security of our judges and magistrates. But that report had not been acted on. When I look at the file, even a consultant was hired and paid some 45 million shillings some time ago to advise us on security. And they advised, or the advisors, a consultant was that we needed a police unit because previously we would rely on security being dispatched to us from the Central Police, if you're talking about the Supreme Court building, for them to come and offer security here during the day or at night. But God knows whether they arrived or whether they stayed on site, because we kept on relying on some private askaris from a private security firm. So a police unit is necessary. This is a arm of government doing very serious work.
So have you received any response from Dr. Matiang'i's office on this matter?
Absolutely. The unit is, were it not for COVID, we would have launched it. We have already delegated to the Judiciary a senior assistant commissioner of police in charge of our unit, and allocated at 3,000 police officers to be deployed in the judiciary.
So there's an increase in that, Madam Chief Justice. And then just yesterday, we also see that there's a possible increase in court fees. And just a little while ago, you talked about reducing the gap between Kenyans and justice. This seems to me as something that would increase the gap between Kenyans and justice if we're looking at a hike in court fees. And the question then for a lot of Kenyans would be, should I pay the extra to take a particular case to court, or should I sit on it and hope that, something happens? So what was the rationale, or what is the rationale behind the increase that we might likely see in court fees?
Thank you, of course, for that question. I think in the long run, we are migrating to e-filing, where you go to the portal and file your documents and make a one payment. It is going to be cheaper because you are not going to be charged for separate items. And this court fee schedule was a matter that was discussed by a committee of the Judiciary and the Law Society and agreed upon. There are many items that have been removed from being charged. So in the overall, it is going to be cheaper because you are paying a one-off payment instead of paying so many items when you do the e-filing. So I think there was misreporting on that, that we have increased the cost fees. Cost fees are not just the realm of the Chief Justice. It's a matter that is done by a dedicated committee of the RSA and the Judiciary. And this was rationalized because now we are doing a one-stop filing, e-filing, which incorporates all the other charges that could have come as independent charges. So this is not going to widen the gap. It is actually in some instances, litigants are going to save money and time. And also for the very vulnerable litigants, we always have facilities for them, indigent clients who can be exempt from paying fees when they are filing their documents.
Madam Chief Justice, one of the things that always appears to come up whenever we are talking about court processes is corruption within the corridors of our judicial system. How do you hope to deal with this, and how do you hope to keep the public informed as to the progress that you're making in dealing with these matters?
Corruption is a concern for all of us in Kenya. And when you listen to the executive, you listen to parliamentarians, you listen to all Kenyans, everybody condemns corruption. Everybody is corruption. It's a concern for us Kenyans. But why has it remained endemic in our society? In the judiciary, we are very, very concerned about this national phenomena of corruption because it's debilitating to our economy. It is perverse, it is negative. We cannot escape from it as the judiciary because we are adjudicators, we are judges, we are courts right in the middle. But the judiciary has taken many steps to deal with it. You recall in 2003, there was an integrity and corruption committee that was known as the Rally Constantly.
Yep.
And out of that exercise, about 100 judicial officers, both magistrates and judges, left office because they were implicated in corruption or one or the other vices. Subsequently, we had the vetting board, which was established to also look at corruption in the judiciary. And we have continued to update our policies and procedures to ensure that we offer credible services and, we really clean our judicial system of corruption. So we have established the board person's office that deals with corruption. We have the code of conduct that declares in very strong terms that the judiciary is, we call ourselves tolerate corruption, zero tolerance to corruption, and of course continue training, our people, on how to avoid corruption and live a very ethical life, very dignified life that can get that confidence of Kenyans. Recently, we are partnered with the EACC, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, to review and assess our systems and processes with the aim of improving our delivery of service. So we are the center of the fight against corruption, because also the cases of corruption come to court. So the judiciary established the anti-corruption and economic crime court, both at the subordinate level and at the high court. Each court dedicates themselves solely to deal with corruption matters. But as you might know, there are actors when it comes to criminal trials, because corruption cases are criminal cases. We depend on the police to carry out investigations and bring proper evidence in court that can support the charges of corruption. We also need the DPP to prosecute these cases effectively. We also need proper roles. We have had problems, with the laws that we have against corruption. Or sometimes somebody is arrested by the police, they say you cannot arrest us, it's an anti-corruption case, you should be arrested by the EACC. And, a crime is a crime. So, we have had all those complications, but we are doing our best. We are meeting regularly under the umbrella of the National Council on the Administration of Justice, because we all have the responsibility of ensuring we have a protective system that secures the Kenyans. We provide security and safety. We guard our national heritage, which is the resources meant for Kenyans, that do not get pilfered into people's pockets. I find a lot of support from the other agencies that we will cooperate and ensure these cases are finalized and they are prosecuted. All the old cases that are there, I'm looking forward to them being completed by the end of this year.
Madam Chief Justice, I have to ask you this question. Would you say, in your opinion, that the judicial officers of the court are adequately remunerated, incentivized, and resourced to carry out these onerous tasks that are before them on a daily basis?
That is a very good question. It's a continuous exercise for us to continuously address this issue of whether the judicial officers are properly resourced. And resources is not just the money that people earn. We require other resources to be able to function optimally. For instance, now we have gone almost digital. About, I can say, 40% of our work is being done digitally. We conduct hearings through video link, so they need airtime, they need devices that can enable them conduct these proceedings, because some of the courts have been condemned because you know the buildings that we operate in are owned. Some have no ventilation, so the Ministry of Health for them diminished. So many judicial officers, judges are working online. So we need these devices, we need the airtime, we need the connectivity. And when it comes to the pay, we are permanently engaging the Salary Regulation Commission to look at the circumstances that judges operate in. We live a very constrained life that you cannot do anything else. The work is overwhelming. So you don't have to suffer the anxiety of whether your school fees for your children are being paid. But as you know, colleagues, money sometimes is not everything. What we require also is to learn how to live within our means. And we appreciate everybody's constrained, especially during this time of the COVID-19 global pandemic. The economy is equally constrained, and we are grateful that at least we have continued to earn our salary, and therefore we remain grateful and keep on asking whether we are also giving back to the society for what we are receiving. We must ask ourselves every day, have I done my day's job to deserve these privileges that I enjoy and this pay that I receive? When we remember some Kenyans have lost their jobs, businesses are closed. So we are grateful for what we have, but also when we ensure that this money that is held in disputes, in commercial disputes, in land matters, succession, in corruption, the economy will be vibrant, and it will be able to support also a very vibrant judiciary.
And that's very true. Madam Chief Justice, we want to thank you very much for joining us this morning. We hope the next one, you'll be able to have you in the studio here with us. We've enjoyed the conversation with you. Chief Justice Martha Koome, wishing you a lovely day. When are you going to launch your new vision for the judiciary?
Thank you very much, Latif. I will be inviting you next week on Thursday. We call it Justice Thursday.
Right.
I have a vision that Kenyans have put in my hands to see that we access justice to Kenyans. Because justice starts across all of us, it is in the best interest of all of us to be concerned about the judiciary and participate in it. I look forward to a very vibrant judiciary where we have a new judiciary and the Supreme Court building. We can move out of this museum. We have the Judicial Training Institute, a state of the art, which we have built to train our judges. We have a Court of Appeal premises for our Court of Appeal judges. We have Tribunals Plaza, because our tribunals are spread all over the city. It's a big vision that promises to engage Kenyans in ensuring that we move together to ensure that Kenya is secure in terms of its justice.
Asante sana. We wish you a lovely day. And yes, we will be joining you on Thursday on Justice Thursdays. Asante sana and have a lovely day, Chief Justice.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, madam.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
So that we serve Kenyans properly.
Law Society of Kenya President Nelson Harvey says he has heard the cries parents, guardians and teachers have raised concerning the CBC. Harvey says that the society will file a petition challenging CBC in court next week. He further says the education system in Kenya shouldn't be an expensive, inefficient and ineffective experiment with our children and their future, as is our leadership. This event comes as parents have given mixed reactions about the curriculum.
I felt like I changed the career and make it suitable for me to be with my son when he does his homework, so that I'm able to monitor him by myself.
Naamuka saa 11 asubuhi, naenda kazi, kurudi kwangu nyumbani ni saa 3 usiku. Ndio napata mtoto analia kwa kitanda, analia kwa kiti, akiniambia dadi, nimetumwa mpira ya karatasi. Mpira ya karatasi nitatoa wapi na mulibani mambo ya polythene bags?
This is an investment I think every parent needs to make, because many parents are saying they have work to do and everything else. That is true, but also your child's education cannot be delegated to somebody else. It has to start with you.
Education CS George Magoha is today expected to report on the progress made so far in implementing the government's plan to ensure that 100% transition of candidates who sat for KCPE join Form 1. Magoha will make the statement during a visit to Kakamega County, accompanied by education officers and other stakeholders who are assisting in the enrollment of candidates to secondary schools. Magoha recently warned that parents who won't send their children to school will face the law. Mombasa Governor Ali Hassan Joho is now advising couples, especially those who are married, to be free with their phones. Speaking at the Agribusiness Symposium and Expo ongoing in Mombasa, Joho suggested that the freedom to allow a husband or wife to receive a call on behalf of their partner builds trust in the relationship. Joho's advice comes after Uganda's Minister of Trade and Industry, Francis Mwembese, appeared to do so during the event.
I learned something from him over dinner that I want to try and practice and add some of it to practice. I don't know whether you remember. When you walked in, first of all you said, sorry I'm a little bit late. As you were saying that, your phone rang. Without looking at it, you gave it to your wife to answer. Mustafa, the chairman of the Chamber of Commerce, was looking at you like, what are you doing? But these are lessons that we want to learn and emulate. So people, when you're near your spouse and your phone rings, you don't even need to look at it, just pass it on.
An in-business Centum investment company has reviewed taxes payable on its investment properties to 4 billion shillings, raising the figure 6 times from the previous 669.9 million shillings. The company says in its latest annual report that it used to assess tax payable on revaluation gains in its real estate portfolio based on the capital gain tax rate of 5%. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, so Jogo Road waited until 9 o'clock, and then now we see all this traffic. Before it was looking pretty good, not so much anymore. Getting to that roundabout, the City Stadium roundabout, going then towards Landis Road. Landis Road, not too bad. Kamkunji also getting into the CBD, not too bad at all. Langata Road is an absolute mess this morning, moving very, very slowly. You also see slow movement coming out of Westlands into the city, all the way from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, Huru Highway through and through. It's jam-packed. Coming off the Thika Superhighway as well, that has not let up at all. We're seeing quite some traffic then getting into the city centre. Limuru Road continues to be a thing, trying to get to the CBD, going towards Westlands or coming in the opposite direction also. So still quite heavy traffic in many parts of the city today. Let's just temper this with a dollop of patience and see how we can get through. Right. Talk to us if you get stuck somewhere. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 7 minutes after 9. Should have been 9 after 9.
Oh man, you were going for it.
0909. on 0909. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. City, let's just begin with the Tanga Tanga.
Eric is now speaking in rhyme.
All the time.
That is a Right. Here we go. Here we go again. A child who likes visiting other homes comes back home to find that the family has slaughtered them and the meat has been eaten by other members of that family. How's that for drama?
I'm telling you, you did it well, CT. There were many cliffhangers in there. We're not quite sure what's happening to this child who'd been out. But alas, here we are. The meat has been eaten.
Gone. Done. How come when you listen to such proverbs, have you come across a proverb that has vegetables as opposed to meat? A child who goes roaming around comes back and finds
Oh, no, vegetable is not sweet now. It's meat. It's meat that's sweet, Abby. The thing that you crave.
That the vegetables have been eaten.
Vegetables are the ordinary. Every day there's some
form
green
of vegetable.
being eaten. Yes.
Whether it's pumpkins. Push of the week, skuma wiki.
Anything will be eaten.
You did not say push of the week.
That's precisely what I said, push of the week.
I've never heard that one before, ever.
That is before the entire worldwide globe realized that this push of the week is actually called kale, and it has, my goodness gracious me, the spectrum of goodies that kale comes with.
Is there anything in this world that's not a superfood? I mean, that seems to be the fad nowadays.
Yes.
Now we move from avocado,
ice
we
cream
go
is not
to
a
kale,
superfood.
we go to... You will hear people telling you milk is a superfood, right?
But milk has always been a superfood.
There you go. And milk is the key ingredient in ice cream.
So ice cream is a superfood?
Ice cream is milk.
I mean, that logic is sound. But Eric, we need to be
My
careful
goodness.
with that sort of extrapolation.
The only thing that's different there is ice.
Yes. Because an ice, there's water. And water, is a superfood.
Yes.
Both of you
How
are
do
lost.
how do
Stop it.
putting water and milk and freezing them, how is that harmful to your health?
Sugar.
So it must be good for you.
Yeah.
Sugar, my friend, sugar.
Consider
Sugar was created.
there's
so
a
it can
point
be
at
harmful.
which you
How
can't
did we get here?
extrapolate.
We were talking about why were there not vegetables in these proverbs as opposed
Yes,
to meat?
because just meat. So I'm asking, surely.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay. If you don't want vegetables, throw in some fruit. Probably the sort of fruit that is a bit confusing. You're not sure there's a vegetable or it's a fruit.
Like a tomato.
Yes.
Right.
Which is clearly a vegetable.
It's a fruit.
Nyinyi watu nyinyi.
Oh, you say your banana is not a fruit, which it's not.
Of course it is.
It's not. Anyway.
What do you mean? Next thing you're going to tell me that
Banana
carrot
is a
fruit.
vegetable.
That carrot is a?
Fruit.
No, carrot is a vegetable. Of the tuber family.
It's the same with...
It's not the same. It's in the
So
same
is a
family.
tuber a vegetable?
Some.
Tubers are vegetables.
Not all tubers are vegetables. You know how they say not all rectangles are squares, but not all squares are rectangles, but all rectangles are squares.
The situation is confused enough. Don't add more confusion.
Not all tubers are vegetables.
Okay, so what's a pumpkin?
A pumpkin is a vegetable. It's not a tuber. Tubers are those ones that grow in the ground and then you dig them up when you harvest. Cassava, yam, potato.
And so fruit?
A fruit?
It has to be hanging on a tree.
Not necessarily. Some fruit grow on vines, some...
That's the tree.
Yeah. A vine for you is the tree. Some on trees, some out of spikes like the pineapple. Yeah.
Fruit is good.
Fruit is very good for you.
Especially in liquid form.
I know where you're going with this, and we're going to stop you in your tracks.
Okay. Hey, we've had the conversation from with the Chief Justice and what she said in terms of her plans for the judiciary, the relationship between the judiciary and other arms of government, the letter that she wrote to the Speaker, and now the understanding that they seem to have, not a response, not a meeting. The letter that she wrote to the President and the understanding that they seem to have, not a response, not a meeting.
Dialogue.
Procedure. process. Chalk it down. If it isn't written, it wasn't done. It's on record, it's been written, there'll be a follow-up and another follow-up and another follow-up. Meaning, work from our side done. As they say, chezo kwako.
Me, I'm thinking the Honorable Chief Justice is going to start having a tough time in coming days.
Why do you say so?
Because of the attitude being shown by the other arms of government. She has taken time to write to the heads of these two. She has written to the president.
These two other arms of government.
Yes. And said, I'd like us to have a meeting to discuss a number of issues here, and there. As I assume office, we can also work on relations. We can also agree how we shall be communicating. We can agree on all these things. What does the president do? Appoints judges and does not appoint all of them. And that's it.
And doesn't honor your meeting.
The issue of the Judiciary Fund and operationalization of the Judiciary Fund has not been responded to. The issue of the concerns about budget and the budget discussion has not been responded to. The 6 judges, she has no idea what's going to happen to them.
Do you imagine for a single second, Eric, when you speak about the 3 arms of government, that these arms of government that we speak of, the judiciary side, because they are the subject of our conversation, do you think they consider the judiciary their equals?
No.
Or do they consider them to be the lesser sibling?
I've said this, and this is for me, this is the thing, that in as much as you're looking at an independent arm of government, not independent assistant to the government.
Not independent.
Not independent.
As in, you're dependent in.
Or not even interdependent kind of thing. You're looking at equal measure, arm, government, 1, 2, 3, executive, legislature, and judiciary. But oftentimes, just from the attitude, for me, especially the things that we've seen in the recent past, is that it is you do what you need to do as we have told you to do, without the recognition that it is just like you, right? Expensing its duty just like you. But it's often as though you are the assistant. You do what we say, come and answer. You now answer our summons, and we now tell you how you'll be able to spend money. For me, I don't think the recognition that is to be accorded to the judiciary is done to the end. I really don't think so. And that's why the thing that she said, now we are having the conversation. Now they understand. So you had not even regarded that this institution, as it is just like you. It has not been regarded before. It took a hard stance. And even then, did we see a response in terms of a letter? No.
No, the response was in the media.
Yeah,
because
it was made public.
The speakers
saying they now threw it to us and said, you know what? We've not received any kind of communication, and even so, we still require these people to come before us and give us this information as need be. But now they understand. It took that communication for them to understand, and the dialogue starts. I don't think there's a regard. Even if there's an understanding, I don't think that there's a regard to say we are working at par with this arm, and we're working in governance together, all 3 of us like this. I don't think so. And I've often said it's the forgotten, what did I say? Forgotten, orphaned child of the government, the judiciary.
You get the impression that the judiciary is seen as an impediment, a bother, a pain, a bottleneck, a unit within the government that prevents other units from doing what they actually want to do.
And not what they're mandated to do.
That's the impression I get. But then look at it historically. You know I was going to go there, don't you?
Of course.
Yes. We've had situations, especially during the one-party system, where the judiciary and the executive were symbiotic. One could even say they were synonymous. They existed to carry out the will of the executive, really, essentially.
Yep.
Now, that was the mindset. Same mindset, Parliament existed to carry out again the will of the executive.
Yep.
But that hasn't changed. Parliament is still existing to carry out the will of the executive. That we've seen. So that status quo seems...
We tried to move out of that, and then we just ended up back there.
Seriously back there with multipartism and a new constitution to boot. But the judiciary seem to have decided they are kicking out of that particular arrangement. And there are people who are not happy. It's clear. And worse still, the people who are not happy are the people who hold the purse strings. So the independence, yes, exists, but in the absence of resources.
I've always said that you can't be truly independent unless you're able to control the spend. So your independence dies at the place whereby you cannot control funds and resources that are necessary for you to do your job.
It actually dies. Both these other arms of government seem to participate in the killing of it because, one, we have a budget-making parliament, okay? Which means they have a big say on how much who gets. Now, if you start from there and you're seen as an impediment, what do you think is going to happen to all these things that you think you need?
That was the response from the National Assembly Speaker. He didn't even cover it up or mask it. And he said, look, accountability, okay? And we have a job to make sure that we oversight. If you don't come here, don't blame us when your budget gets affected.
This was in response to the letter that she wrote.
And saying, look, and you hear what she said. The registrar of the judiciary receives 3 summonses from 3 different committees on the same day to respond to matters that are similar. It is all about
the same subject.
Her view, it's HR matters. There's an audit query here, yes. And the query is asking, you have been in a conversation and in a process of filling out some positions in the judiciary for X number of years. What's happening? It makes sense to ask what's happening. It's not really asking why didn't you hire CT and yet CT had applied. And there was another arm of the legislature that was asking that same question. This person has been acting, this person has applied, this person has not been appointed. Why has this acting person not been appointed into the substantive position, yet they have applied, yet every time they apply, they qualify, you say, let's start again. What is it? What's the issue here? And that's what she was saying. You can't really tell us who to hire. But there's a whole conversation there. Yes, you need to respond, but can we have...
There's some dog whistle conversation taking place here where everyone knows what they're responding to because it appears that this is what is going on, but it isn't really what's going on. Surely, it is fair, it is appropriate for relevant committees to ask, surely this person has been acting for God knows how many years. Okay then, why don't you just make
hire
the position?
them or get rid of them?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, is there not a limit to how long somebody can act? Valid question. But the Chief Justice just got this job the other day here.
Give her a minute.
Yeah, sure. I mean, in all honesty,
the person being summoned, the registrar,
has been there for a minute.
Been there for a while.
No, the registrar has been there not for a minute, for minutes.
Yes.
Okay? So, what really is the issue here?
You see, the thing is, this is not the first time this issue has come up. In the times of Willie Mutunga, it came up. Times of day, it came up. The issue has always been there, that you're requiring people. At some point, from what we see, Willie Mutunga never even... there was a standoff completely between members of parliament and the judiciary. You're going to be summoning us like this? Guess what? We are just not going to come. And so... It became kind of like we're duking it out now, saying you cannot be requiring us to come over and over again. This is the first time that you've seen communication with a stance like that coming from the Office of the Chief Justice. And she said, you know what? We need to streamline this thing. And all it takes from you is a little bit of homework. You know this committee is requesting this individual over this issue. Are you not able to communicate amongst yourselves so that this person can come once and we answer the questions that you need answered? We're not saying that we don't want to come. We realize that it is important for us to give you an account of the money that we spend and the decisions that we make in adjudicating some of these cases. We understand that that's not even the issue. But the time spent shuttling back and forth over something that can be done once, surely anybody can understand this. But here you are with the response given is that there is something that you're trying to stick to the judiciary by saying, you know what, very nice your letter, let's put it aside. If you don't come, we cut your budget.
Actually,
it's not the first time this has happened.
Do you really think Parliament doesn't know what they're doing?
Of course they do, and that's what I'm saying. There's more than meets the eye. It's not a matter of the summons. Do you think they cannot decide today, you know what, can actually streamline this thing and we can get it done? But there's a message behind this that's being sent out. And that's why I'm saying, in as much as we say the three arms of government, there is this overriding attitude that, you know what, it is us and the executive, or it is us and the legislature. The judiciary will just kind of follow along.
It's a terrible
thing. The executive thinks it's a body. Okay? The executive is the body. Left arm, judiciary. Right arm, legislature.
Yes.
All of them being controlled by?
The body.
Bas. That's the mindset.
But the legislature doesn't even think that the left arm is the judiciary. It's somewhere out. It's an organism that is just following the body.
The legislature just thinks, I'm the right arm, and this person is a right-handed person.
Yes.
Bas. So I'm the one who's mostly used.
Only armed person, and I am the arm.
And we have powers. And just in case you forgot. But
it's going to be a tough fight, I agree.
It is a tough fight. When all these things interfere with the carriage of justice, it interferes with the processes of justice in the country.
For sure.
And it means then the citizen is being shortchanged. Because of all this, it is a terrible thing.
Do you see now when it would be difficult? And she mentioned that today. She said, you know what, we need a change in our laws. We need a change in our laws to allow for some of these things to happen. When you talk about the judiciary being the bottleneck in the fight against corruption, what did she say? Some of these laws don't allow them to be, they're just so rigid.
And
who
passes the law?
Who passes the law? Who passes the law? And oftentimes, don't we see that there's a circumvention of this same law, so that certain things will not come out into the open, so that certain prosecutions cannot take place, so that certain charges cannot be made, looking and flying in the face of things like corruption and impunity. Doesn't it, when you look at it now, it all comes full circle. That, you know what, I can throttle you in a certain manner, because then certain things will not happen. And then we remain in a place where we can control certain processes. You need a change of the law in order to allow the justice system work properly. Those who hold on to the reins of lawmaking in this country, do you think that they're going to say, oh, we need to change our laws? Oh, let's do that quick, fast, in a hurry then. Do you see a situation like that playing out? It's not going to happen.
Laws will be changed, yes. But we have seen with the 1/3 gender rule. So we saw how that one went.
2/3.
There's a reason why I'm saying 1/3. Okay, there's a reason why I'm saying 1/3. Because that's the 1/3 is the threshold.
The 1/3 is the part.
Threshold. Yes. Okay. We saw how that one played out. It comes up in Parliament, people walk out, there's no quorum. There's all sorts of anything and everything other than the very thing that this thing needs. Okay? Now, impunity playing out. We have the power, we will do exactly what we want and how we want it. And there's nothing you can do. So they think. But at some level, I am happy that there is that friction. I am delighted that there is that disagreement. In a country like ours, I would hate a situation when all three of our arms of government agree. We'd be done for. Kabisa, sold, cutted off, finished.
They don't need to agree. Well, I think what we need to have is systems that are clear on how those lines are drawn. Like if there was the operationalization of the Judiciary Fund, where the judiciary knows for sure that this is money that is guaranteed.
And it comes to us directly.
It comes in directly.
We don't have to go and ask.
Who allows for it to do that?
The law.
Who
makes the law?
The people. It's in the Katiba.
Of course it is. Even the independence is in the Katiba.
Even human rights.
It's in the Katiba.
You see, once it starts.
And then you're talking of operationalization. Look at how I mentioned the 1/3 gender rule. I'm doing this deliberately. Look at what our legislators did with Chapter 6. Can you operationalize it? That thing was disabled before our very eyes.
Yeah.
So that it's neither here nor there. There's a mention of it here. It could be put into operation here, but does it work? No. We have been talking about the issues of conflict in the country. We've even brought in people who actually deal with the units within government, commissions that deal with these things. You cannot get more toothless than those organizations. It is not possible to be more toothless. How do you have a commission that deals with things like that and all they can do is recommend? And you're thinking, recommend. Okay. We are paying you to recommend.
Yeah.
That's all we're doing. And this is a serious problem, and it is for that reason that the commission was formed. So, at the end of the day, what is clear is that there are people who are hell-bent on ensuring that anything that can actually shake, change, bring about, if it's going to interfere with the comfy situation that they are in, they will never let it see the light of day.
It will never move.
That thing won't move.
And who they have to call a motherless child in the meantime, or seem as though they're wielding some kind of control over, they will do. Doesn't matter whether it's the judiciary today or whomever else. You stand in the way of that being the status quo.
Shauri yako. Yeah. And let's take a break. Time for us to look at the weather in Eldoret and other parts of the country and the world, and also see the traffic situation at 9:30. It was not looking so good earlier this morning, right?
No.
It wasn't good. It wasn't good on Thika Road, on Mombasa Road. It wasn't good anywhere. Another day in the roads in this country. Pain, anguish, gnashing of teeth.
Wow.
We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 2 hash to read the Nairobian e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line and stay up to date, the hottest talk of town with no additional charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM. Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here. Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a Fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working, and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the weather with Spice FM.
Okay, mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi at 18, highs of 23 and lows of 13. Nakuru is mostly cloudy at 21, highs of 23. We'll see highs of 21 in Nyeri, highs and lows of 14. It's raining currently at 16. Eldoret, raining at 19, and that will be the high for today, getting into a chilly low of 13. In Kisumu, it's raining at 23, highs of 27 and lows of 17. And in Kakamega, 21 degrees, rain as well, highs of 23 and lows of 15. Let's take a look out of the country into Kampala, 21 degrees and partly sunny, highs of 26 and lows of 18. And in Lagos this morning, 24 degrees and mostly sunny conditions, 30 will be the high and lows of 24. Kinshasa is partly sunny at 24, highs of 33 and lows of 23. Take a look out into Beijing, where it's mostly cloudy at 27, highs of 28 and lows of 18. London this morning is 17 and cloudy, highs of 23, lows of 17. Paris is cloudy as well. For now, we will see highs of 26 and lows of 18. And in New York, getting into Thursday morning, it's cloudy at 24. That'll be the high for today, coming down to lows of 17.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM.
Still jam-packed in the city. All roads lead into the CBD this morning. Jogo Road now. I know Jogo Road was late to wake up today, because now we're seeing all this traffic then coming from Landis out towards Kamkunji. That is jam-packed. Coming off Mombasa Road as well. Looks a total mess. Langata Road. From the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, the road that feeds off into Aerodrome, not too bad right now, but you're going to get to the Bunyala Road roundabout and it is stuck. So traffic, Uhuru Highway through to Westlands, outbound as well. That is looking interesting. So we're still in traffic hour even at 9:30. Probably be there for some time. Let's keep an eye on things this morning. Coming off of Pangani at the underpass there is looking better coming off of Thika Superhighway, but still packed at that junction. Let's keep an eye on things, guys. Do that for us as well. Talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, just in case you do get stuck or you find a good route this morning. We'll be takers.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Minutes to 10. Kenya's biggest conversation continues in the Situation Room. Eric Latif, Nduoko, and okay?
This is Siti Muga.
Are you okay?
Me? I'm fine. Why?
You're blowing into the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
What's happening?
I was making sure you know I'm here.
You know how it is when you want to ensure that the mic is actually working. You either
hello?
tap it,
is it on?
blow into it,
Hello?
and 1, 2, 1, 2.
Psst, psst. Ivo,
Yes,
City
so-
gets it.
So it's working.
Thanks.
That you could hear it. Evidence that the mic is actually working.
Okay. Okay then. Okay. So 100 days in office, that's the question we want to ask you. 100 plus, around 100 days in office, it's been more than that, with Chief Justice Martha Koome. Do you have confidence that she will be able to achieve what she says? She wants to transform social transformation through access to justice, bringing justice closer to the people, making justice more accessible, making the delivery of justice faster. As she's talking about that, she's talking about wanting to have the case backlog that's 5 years and 3 years and more cleared within the next 3 months or so by the end of the year. And then moving on and saying we want to build more courts. We want to see there's more facilitation for our judicial officers. The digitization process is going to be working, so it's going to be easier for you to access justice. Do you have confidence from what you've seen with the Chief Justice so far that she'll be able to achieve all these things that she says? Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600 and SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter.
I think she's going to make a spirited effort. And just trying to make sure that things actually do fall in line. Small claims court, I think, is one of those whereby folks have been in court for years trying to, get back money that they didn't have and they couldn't afford to lose. So now with the small claims court where you have, amounts under 1 million shillings then can be adjudicated and sorted out within 60 days. That's something that you've not really seen, right? You had to go to court and duke it out with the folks who were wrestling for 200 million shillings and 20 million shillings, and yours is 50,000, So now with the small claims court, really fast judicial process, get it out there, you have your case heard and you're done, and then you move on. Because interestingly enough, these smaller amounts make for a large percentage of the cases that are brought before court, So I think she is going to make a spirited effort for some of the things that she has talked about that she would like to do, change the face of the judiciary, make sure that you have a reduction in the number of cases. And you can see that the efforts are already starting to be made. It started. Will she be able to realize everything that she has set out that she wants to do? I think she's still being cautious there, whereby she may have plans that she's not let the cat out of the bag yet, or things that she would like to see happen here. But one thing is for sure that she wants to see, for the protection of her officers, one, She wants to see for the provision of her officers, in as much as it is important, realizing that the duty that they hold is one that is very important in the country. So I think she will make an effort. Whether or not she will achieve it all, that's a wait-see kind of thing.
I think she will. If we already have a situation where the security services have actually demarcated, they have put in place the structure to have police who are dedicated to the judiciary, that is big. It is huge. It's a good step. Secondly, if you consider, for instance, that more and more we are hearing alternate resolution mechanism being used through arbitrators and mediators, if that push is continued, then it means many other issues, again, many, because that process is akin to a literal court process, because it is a court process.
It is.
All these things that they're talking about, if they actually put into operation, yes, we will see a reduction in the clogging up that we have already been seeing. So she has her work cut out for her. And why am I speaking so confidently? When we had Justice William Mutunga, because the guy who came in with the Constitution, okay?
Yes.
Man, buildings were put up. But they had an executive that played ball, that was willing to say, okay, guys, you need to do this.
Yes.
Here's the money.
Here's some money.
Do it. And they moved full throttle. Then we had Justice Maraga. He came in, did his thing, okay? We saw the judiciary getting bolder and bolder and bolder in the steps that they were taking and in calling out, let me just say, carrying out their duties. So we have Martha Koome. I mean, that path now, one can see light has been shone on that path. And she seems to be very, very determined to continue along it and to ensure that things that hadn't been done previously now gets done. What I'd like to see is how she's going to deal with this bottleneck called Parliament.
Let's hear from the callers. Karanja in Naivasha. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric Idu and City.
Good morning, Karanja.
Good morning, sir.
Yes, City, welcome back.
Karibu sana, thank you.
Okay, now.
Kenyan. Welcome, Karibu.
Karibu.
Yeah, Karibu sana. Now, we don't want to empty promises with the current CJ. In fact, the robust discussion that you had there in the morning was very nice. But sometimes I feel like even coming there, because I would have asked the CJ, are there any duress by the executive against the judiciary? Now, coming to the point, 100 days of the CJ appointed in the office, we would like to see more coming up. First of all, the CJ herself has a cordial relationship with the government.
Yes.
With the executive.
Yes.
With the registration.
Yes.
Now, how comes that she is telling us we need to create some rules so that the corruption cases can be heard earlier and the verdict decided? Now, I have a problem. When bigger corruption cases are being heard, or somebody is mentioned of corruption case by the AGCC, who represents these people to their courts? We see bigger names, people who are elected in Senate, people who are being elected in Parliament. They are the one representing somebody who is accused of corruption. So what are we doing? I see there is a mischief in making of the 2010 Constitution.
Yep.
And another lawyer called Feroz G wrote in a book that the crisis of the 2010 Constitution will arise again because we knew there is a vacuum in that Constitution. Thank you very much, Eric.
Asante sana, Karanja.
Thank you very much.
Zachary.
Oh, good morning. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
Welcome to our old Abraham, Mr. Mwarimandro there.
Karibu, thank you very much, sir.
This is Medusela.
We need you now. Eric bestowed upon me to confirm whether the proverb, today's proverb, is actually really stated the way you stated it in Kikuyu. And it is hereby declared it is that way.
It's authentic. It's authentic. How would one say it? Because I don't really want to assassinate the language by mispronouncing everything. How would you say it?
Do I have the privilege of stating it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. It goes like this. Kaiho gashagi gatiga gakwao gogethejo.
Thank you. See?
Gogethejo is okay. Some people call it mushoroge. I think mushoroge. Yeah.
I am very glad I didn't attempt it because I would.
Tell them what kaiho is.
Kaiho is this thing that feeds on the cuckoo. I have forgotten its name in English.
The what?
It's out of my mind now. It feeds on a chicken.
Something that feeds on chicken.
A kaiho is actually it's actually a fox.
Oh.
Sure. Let me say this, You are wondering why most of our proverbs, go around praising meat. Let me say this: meat was not a affair. Okay.
Yes.
It was a delicacy.
A goat had to be slaughtered actually with a very, very, very solid reason. Very solid. So let me say this, our country has grown. That today I cannot tell that if you don't go fetch water in the river, you not get it. I should tell you, oh my God, we had to beat all through last week. So what I'm telling you, okay, so meat was rare, and that is why it was that much privileged to be used in Proverbs. Now, on the issue of our discussion today,
yes,
let me again congratulate Mrs. Mother Kome for being appointed our first woman Chief Justice. And I think in all offices, we need motherly people, women with motherly touch, because she was talking very smoothly and she doesn't beat her chest. And, we feel that we are being led by our mother, But then let me say this. We should not have a judiciary whereby that the money they get is decided by a person who feels aggrieved or made happy by what the judiciary is doing, okay? The judiciary should have its definite share of money that we collect from the public, such that if I feel that a certain judge didn't go my way, I'm not there to stand up and tell them that I secure tomorrow I shall revisit or I shall do how, and she's doing her work. If the judiciary should have a definite share of, a certain percentage of this money that we collect. This goes to the judiciary, this goes to the executive, this goes to education, okay?
Yep.
So that we do not control the year pass. And thank you guys very much.
Asante sana, Zachary.
Thank you.
0719-012-600. Do you have confidence that Chief Justice Martha Koome will be able to deliver what she hopes to deliver in the judiciary? With everything at play, we have judges who are thinking a certain way. We have the allegations of corruption. We've got a legislature that's thinking a certain way. We've got an executive that's thinking a certain way. We have the National Council on Administration of Justice that brings in all these people, and every one of them has their own interests that they bring to the table as they are seeking services of this particular office. Francis Wambogo in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Mine is very brief. First of all, it's about Kayoga Shandashagi
Mm-hmm.
And the gentleman before me actually explained it well. But only one thing he missed is that Kayo in the proverb means the same way Mwalimu had said about mtoto.
Yes.
Mtoto, yeah. Yani mtoto wa kuzurura wanaacha kwao kupikwa, in short. Then he ended up missing everything. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yes. Now, on justice, on our discussion today about Chief Justice. First, we are proud of her. And not merely because she is a lady. I would like her to be judged not because she is a lady, but she judged as a very qualified person to be where she is. And just pray that she's not going to let us down, considering that we have made some good steps. I heard her talk about radical surgery, and that was the first step that we did during the Sheru. And it was the first step toward improving justice. And it is very, very important that everyone goes to court and can get justice. We know, all of us know where corruption in our courts comes in. First of all, it's dealing of the cases. Then in the process of dealing those cases, they come manipulation. But when cases are quite dispensed expeditiously, they leave little room for manipulation. So, we have been going, improving step by step. The Sheru's time improved. Then came Justice Mtunga. We did some good steps. Maraga, the court became even broader. And with all the challenges that we have been having, he was able to overcome them. And I'm hoping that we are not going to go back, despite the attack from the executive. You know, even through the BBI, if you can look, there was a systematic attack to the judiciary via BBI. And we hope that by having a qualified person, let me not even call her, to refer her to lady, because I know she's just like any other person, like any other man, just qualified to be where she is. That she is going to improve us from where we were left by Maraga.
You're hoping. Do you have confidence that she can do that? That she's going to do that?
Yes, I have confidence. I have confidence she can be able to deliver. She can deliver. Yes, but first of all, is to wither the attack by the executive and the and legislature. Because everyone would like to control the court so that we are not fully democratized, but we are in a good process of democratizing our society. But that's getting justice, having independent commissions that can work independently, having court that is not emancipated from funds. So that's one way of controlling the court. But we are hoping that she can be able to deliver that. But more importantly, without allowing herself, the court to be attacked by the judiciary or succumbing to attack from the executive. That
Good points. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Francis. Do you have confidence that Chief Justice Martha Koome will be able to deliver on her ambition to transform society through access to justice? This is what she wants to launch as her vision. Social transformation through access to justice. That is what she says. That's going to be the agenda of her administration. Mwangi in Nairobi, good morning. Okay, we don't have Mwangi. 0719-012-600. That's the number to call. What do you think? Those letters that she immediately gets into office and within a week she's already said, I want to meet with you, Mr. President.
Right.
We need to discuss some things, okay? You need to appoint judges. We need that fund called the Judiciary Fund. You need to operationalize it. We need to discuss budget. Even you as a president is like, hey, wait.
But can you imagine what she was met with? Can you imagine what she was met with? She went in and there was nobody.
You know that one?
There was no one. That was something that we kind of just didn't pay attention to.
Going to a country and there are no people.
Yeah, there's nobody to meet you at the airport. You've come in, you don't even know what's going on. You don't know which direction to go in. There's one person who's like, okay, well...
No, this one person actually had reached retirement age.
This is what I'm saying. She's actually saying to you, I'm actually on my way out, but I can offer you a cup of coffee and then I've got to go, kind of thing. So you're coming in here and you have this huge job to do and there's nobody. So can't you imagine that she would start to clean up shop immediately and say, all right, we need this, we need this, we need this. We've seen that the people who were there before...
Wait. This, we are talking about the office that was left by David Maraga and her taking over. Those questions we need to ask the Judicial Service Commission. However, the Chief Justice has left. Obviously, Chief Justice has left. The only other thing we're talking about is that the Chief Justice's PA is somebody who is also on her way out. She's retiring. Okay? But the registrar is there. The registrar of the judiciary is not leaving. The chief registrar. The registrars of the various courts are all in office, from the magistracy all the way. The Registrar of the High Court, Registrar of the Court of Appeal, they are all in office. So administratively...
And they were there not asking these questions about things that needed to be done.
But they are not in the office of the Chief Justice. There's a structure that forms that office, not the larger plenary of the judicial system of Kenya. No.
Who is in the position to make the demands about these things that need to be done?
Yes. So the question there is on the HR issues, functions of the Office of Chief Justice. Because as we are talking today, so the Chief Justice has a personal assistant. The Chief Justice has a Chief of Staff, right? The Chief Justice has come with her staff. Are these staff pegged to the tenure of Martha Koome as Chief Justice?
Or are they individuals whom she decides? Does she have the liberty to say, okay, Danny, come work for me.
You come. Yes. And is there a clear transition? Are you here for a 2-year, 3-year contract, 4-year contract? So when Martha Koome leaves and the new Chief Justice comes, is she going to leave with her own people? That's what she seems to be saying. That's what happened when she got into office.
Or maybe it was her expectation. But then somebody who's been in the judicial system, I mean, she's been in this system.
Yeah. But also look at it from the other way. When the president is in office, he's the one who has appointed the comptroller of State House. He's the one who's appointed his personal assistant. He's the one who's appointed his advisors. When Uhuru Kenyatta leaves office next year,
people are going to live with him.
All of them.
He lives with them. Yeah. The new president has to come in and figure it out. There could be some transitional period there of, okay, you as the controller of State House, you will remain in office until a new one is appointed. However, can you imagine if Kennedy Mbogwa decides he wants to go back to Nakuru and vie?
He can.
And the president, within the intervening period, the president does not appoint a substantive...
And there's nobody.
A substantive control of State House.
There'll be it'll be a spot of bother, wouldn't it?
Yeah, the fifth president comes in and they have got to figure out... But then there are structures, that's what I'm saying. Even if we don't have the control of State House, there are people who work in the office of the control of State House. The process should continue.
There are civil servants who work in that place who don't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
Truth.
But you see now, for me, this letter that she wrote, so it's not necessary. I think there was a message beyond that, that there are certain things which were needed to have been done that had not been done. So whether they come in rapid succession, whether they all come at the same time, what is she saying? They are important and they need to be addressed.
Yep.
This fund that we've talked about needs to happen.
Yep.
This budget that we've talked about and how we're going to increase it, it needs to happen. These protections that we're looking for, they need to happen.
And the president has not responded to that letter.
Till today.
He responded.
Silence also is an answer.
No, he responded.
By appointing judges.
Yes, that was a response.
That's his understanding of what the letter was talking about.
Actually, I cannot say what his understanding is.
You read the letter and say, okay, what we need here is judges.
I think she's asking about those judges, eh? Just appoint.
Just give them.
Yes,
appoint 34.
And then let's see. If she writes another letter.
Yeah.
So it was clear that there is urgency in a lot of matters from her.
This one. We're stretching it.
She writes to the Speaker of the National Assembly. The Speaker says, okay, you guys.
You said that's nice, but still come, Because if you don't...
No letters written, but we are aware of what he thinks because he says it.
No, it's like you have a meeting with somebody or somebody sends you communication, then you say, okay, that's very nice, you hold on there. Then you go outside and tell other people.
What Nani has been telling me.
What she has been saying. If they let them not come. Even that money that they use for all that stationery, will cut it.
But that, my friend.
But also, even her, she wrote the letter and read it in public. I am sending this letter to the Speaker of the National Assembly. I am asking him.
She knew what she was doing.
Yes, no, that's what I'm saying.
So the Speaker of the National Assembly is saying, I have received the letter from the Speaker of the National Assembly. I am telling her.
From the office of the Chief
When
Justice.
we asked the question, she responded by saying she was seeking dialogue. She actually understood what she was doing.
Yes,
she knew. These
now we're talking. The elephant in the room now is smaller.
I still haven't learned how to communicate.
I'm still learning how to communicate.
I'm still learning how to communicate with these offices. It's a balancing act. It's a tough one.
Isn't it just?
It's a tough one. That's what I'm saying. This one. For as long as the president has not even written to acknowledge, okay, she is the one who's giving an excuse for the president. You know, he's busy. You know, these are busy offices. You know, you are a busy officer and you wrote to them.
Every independent office is busy.
Yes.
You found the time. They can
You
find
wrote
the
to
time.
them. They can just write back and acknowledge that, yes, the president has received your letter and he is going to work on his diary and grant you a meeting.
So what we should do perhaps is ask Mr. Muthui to come here and explain some of these things to us. Because instead of figuring out what we think he's saying, better still, let's ask His Excellency the President, because he can tell us exactly.
He can tell us, what exactly? Did you understand this letter?
Do you now understand the position that the
It
judiciary
might surprise you and
holds?
ask you which letter.
Which letter? Me, I was told she's asking for judges. I appointed judges.
Yes, the letter, which one?
Letter. Oh, okay. Letter.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Justin Muthui, has our invitation to come to the studio, and hopefully we'll have him in the studio on Wednesday next week. Yeah. So this is one of the questions we'll ask him. Okay. Among other things that we will seek to ask him. Tomorrow, we are going to be hosting the president of Estonia. We spoke about Estonia the other day. They are highly digitized. What's the name of that president?
We're reading it without causing too much complication. I believe that is what you're asking me to do.
Yes.
Well, let me read it and see if I will minimize the confusion.
Yes.
All right? Kirsty. Calculate. Now I'm reading it like an African.
You're
J is probably
pronouncing every letter.
But of course, that's why the letters are there.
Every letter in a word must be pronounced
loudly. Now, because if you don't want us to pronounce, they don't put it there.
Yeah, why are you putting it there? You don't want us to.
If you leave it, then we know it is absent.
Right.
Yes. Thank you for tuning into the Situation Room. So tell us about the Kaihuga Changa Changi.
I'm going to paraphrase. This child who was around mangamangaing, mangamangaing here means going here and there, and which also means tangatangaing.
Up and down.
We'll find that this delicacy that they really cherish, called meat, has been provided for through slaughtering and has been eaten
By everybody in there.
Everybody else except
minus
them.
this child.
And why? Because they were
Mangamangaing.
Yes.
Let's go mangamangaing. See you again tomorrow morning. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.